HP, are you all right?
Harlan, yes, just an overeager fan who got carried away.
Fans. Imbeciles fit only to be gnawed by rabid rats.
Yes, someone could write a book.
How about A Boy and His Fans by Harlan Ellison and H.P. Hatecraft?
I was thinking something more along the lines of Shagul Rath Hagafar, the fan that hath no name.
Except, you just named it.
Oh, start with me, Ellison.
Welcome to the Heretic Channel, folks. My name is Jenova.
And I'm Gene Skinner. Welcome, everyone.
We're back.
Yes, we
on
are.
The Heretic Channel.
The original channel. Here we are.
The original channel. Here we are. Heretic Channel. You know, it's funny. There's a Heretic TV on YouTube.
Yeah, I know that.
Like, really popular. And it's like, I always think of them, and like, we're almost Heretic TV. It's almost everything Heretic TV except saying TV.
Yeah.
So, yes, folks, welcome. It is our first time back since we got, what was it, the Western stream?
Yes, the Western stream.
It was McClintock.
I want to kill myself. How's everyone doing? Well, doing fine, Hinder Shrimp. Don't die, please.
Don't kill yourself, or at least don't kill it in my vicinity.
Kill yourself in my vicinity.
Tonight we're talking about a loudmouth little tiny Jew.
Yes, Harlan
named
Ellison.
Harlan Ellison, who loves to sue everybody.
Yes.
That's why this is a cut and print and not a slice and dice, because Harlan is really sort of like a sci-fi drama,
a science
kind of
fiction.
guy.
The only horror he ever did is what I showed last night on my stream, which is I have no mouth and I must scream.
Right.
And it's more bleak science fiction at that, too. It's not really horror elements besides the fact that everybody's dead besides these 5 people and people on the moon.
Yeah. No. He's written a couple stories for the Alfred Hitchcock Hour, and they had a story of his on Tales from the Dark Side. Yep. I watched both of those, but neither of those are horror, nor are they thrillers. So
it's more just like hard sci-fi, you would say?
The one he did for Tales from the Dark Side isn't even sci-fi. It's called Jinn No Chaser, and like Jinn, like DJINN, like evil genie Jinn.
Oh, the Jinn, I get you, yeah.
So it was terrible. It was awful. So not even really sci-fi, more like fantasy, I guess.
I see.
I guess just because it has a genie in it.
But... Well, I mean, I have no mouth on the screen had an angel and a demon in a medieval setting, so.
Okay. I have no news, and I must.
and I must pasta sauce.
And I must do something. So instead of doing Mundane WAP, we're going to do Dago on film.
Dago on film, good.
And so what I did was I watched, the thing is, I would been looking for news, and there's really nothing to talk about. Of course, there's always movie news, but is it really something we're talking about? No.
No.
Disney's still a piece of shit.
Hi, Johnny.
Everybody's hyping the Joker movie.
Yeah, of course they are.
This and that and here. It's just really nothing interesting to talk about. However, I do love to bash Dread Central.
Of course.
So, and they make terrible films.
Yes, they do.
So, I watched a movie that they just put out by Bigfoot. I hope the volume is better because Gene is actually running the OBS, so yes. I hope the volume is okay. However, I watched a movie that they put out recently called Hoax, which is about Bigfoot.
Of course.
Now, I don't want to say that they didn't try.
But it seems like they didn't try.
But they didn't try.
Okay.
They tried to do some things. And I think if you had better actors and, I don't know, a better director. I don't know who directed it. Some faggot, probably.
Some faggot.
It has Brian Thomas in it, I think his name is, or Brian Thompson or whatever. The guy from Cobra, the bad guy from Cobra. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. I just don't remember if it was Brian Thompson or Brian Thomas. I can't remember either.
I have no fucking idea. I'm sure Chad knows.
If Rock was here, he would know. Our fact checker is not here.
Our fact checker is not here, no. So, what we have is we start off in the mountains somewhere with a group of kids, like you do, a group of teenagers, like partying and having
Are they
sex and
smoking
shit like
weed?
that. They're smoking the fucking ganj, dude.
Of
They're
course.
in brew dogs. They're fucking, you know.
Fucking. Thank you, Jenova.
They're
That was a good
they're
use of your
fucking.
vocabulary right there.
They're fucking. There's a bunch of people on here who aren't, because we're on our old channel because we finally got it back.
Yep.
Add moderator, just so we don't have to worry about you guys' messages getting deleted because they like to do that shit. So what this movie really does that's really awkward, the first thing I started noticing was they are not only are they ripping things off, but they're doing it in a terrible way, and then they're doing homages, and they feel like they're jammed in. Like
Oh,
they
Cindy
don't.
says it was Brian Thompson.
Brian Thompson, thank you, Cindy. They feel like they are, like they don't belong. They don't fit in the movie.
Okay.
So, one of the first homages or one of the first Easter eggs, whatever you want to call it, you get is this guy turns around and the back of his jersey says Loomis.
Oh, of course.
Of course, right? Then
how dare they make a reference to Matinee? Gene Loomis was a saint.
So then, sorry, I was smoking my cigarette.
Yeah,
so
I heard you smoking it. Go on.
So then, like, two of the kids are in like a tent and they hear something going on. And she's the girl's like, you need to go out there and you need to check. And he's like, are you kidding me? It's cold out there. And she's like, well, it can get real cold in here, which is a ripoff from another movie. I can't remember. I have no fucking clue. There are ripoffs in this movie that I don't know where they're from, but I know I've seen them before. So it's clear that's clearly a ripoff from another movie or a line, you know. Yeah. I don't know if it's supposed to be a quote unquote Easter egg or whatever. And even the opening credits are kind of a ripoff. They're these big, long, panning vista shots of the mountains, and they remind me of like a shit ton of other shows and television, or I'm sorry, a shit ton of other shows and movies that I've seen before.
Yeah.
They just pan over all the big mountains and show you all the trees and everything like that. You can get lost in it or whatever. But basically, Bigfoot shows up and kills all these kids and they all disappear.
He doesn't have sex with any of the bodies?
No, unfortunately not.
Unfortunately not.
I would love for that to have happened, but none of that actually happens.
Is that your Sicilian speaking in that count, or?
Sure, yeah. So then, like I was gonna forgive the acting because clearly these kids were just hired to die, so that's okay, right? That's like, okay, these kids are just hired to die. They're just there to show us that Bigfoot is around and killing people.
Bigfoot is real.
But then we get to like one of the main characters who's he's a producer of reality television, but
so we can blame him for Jersey Shore then, right?
Oh yeah, sure. So he basically is his career is shit now, and nobody really wants to, like, you know, give him anything. Like, nobody wants to do anything for him or with him or anything. But he begs this one producer, and he goes, all your reality TV shows are shit. And then the producer says something that is completely true about how Hollywood feels about the audience. And the exec, he's a studio exec.
Okay.
And he says the pigs will eat whatever you put in the trough.
The pigs.
And that's basically how that's how studios view the audience. That's how Disney views their fans. And you're a pig, and they're going to feed you slop. It's the same with horror movie fans. This is I've always said this. Horror movie fans they just feed on slop because they have nothing else to eat.
Nothing else.
The pigs will eat whatever you put in the trough. So that's exactly, I was like, okay, well, there's something that works, right? I was like, I agree with that. So then the producer finally gets what he wants. And the studio exec says, like, whether this show works or not, you're done after this. Don't ever come to me for nothing. He's like, all right, whatever. So he starts putting together a team to take out into where these kids went missing and were quote unquote killed by Bigfoot.
Killed by Bigfoot.
Because everybody kind of knows about it. It's this big news story.
Bigfoot makes the news.
So he goes to find this this primate expert. She works with apes and shit like that.
Okay.
And he tells her, he goes, "I'll give you $10,000 for 1 week." And she's like, "Okay, I'll go." And then he goes and he goes to the town where they're gonna film, or the town that's like around the mountains where they're gonna film.
Yeah.
And he finds the guy who's the father of one of the girls that went missing or who died.
Okay.
And he goes, "I'll give you $2,500 for 1 week." Okay. So he pays the woman more than he pays the man, even though the man is the victim.
Of course.
He gives the man less money. That was clearly the way they shoot it is clearly a sort of a like, haha, like the gender wage gap is flipped now.
I fucking hate Dread Central even more now.
It's so fucking awful. Great. How come you don't have a? Because... Oh, that's right. We're on Heretic Channel. I forgot.
Yeah.
It's new. Well, it's not new, but
it's the new old.
Yes. So then he's assembled his whole crew, right?
Yes.
He's got his Bigfoot expert. He's got his primate expert, right? She's like a vet for chimps or whatever.
Something like that.
His Bigfoot expert is this guy who is telling that old story. Do you know the famous old Bigfoot story that everybody sort of knows if they've studied Sasquatch or anything about, the farmer in the barn?
Oh, the Charles B. Pierce story. Yeah, I know that story.
Right, where his horses are going crazy and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, he tells that story. So he's basically supposed to be Charles B. Pierce in this, I guess. Or they just use his story. It's another ripoff kind of thing.
Of course. Because that's technically not a Bigfoot story. That is a fucking Falk monster story.
Sure, yeah. Well, I have no doubt that these people don't know what they're talking about. So... and then while they're doing that, like while everybody's like sort of loading up the plane or the helicopter, whatever they take to get to the mountains, there's the film guy, the camera guy who works for the producer, and another guy that works for the producer, and he looks and the camera guy looks over to the sound guy and he goes, "And there she is on the radio." And she says, "There's a fog bank rolling in." And he looks out the window and he goes, "There's no fog bank rolling in." And then he cuts and he looks back out and then there's a fog bank rolling out. That's a classic scene. And I was like, why is this in here? They're referring to The Fog.
Yeah.
From John Carpenter's The Fog. It's another, like, this jammed in fucking...
Did J.J. Abrams write this script, by the way? I have a feeling.
So bad. Everything is just jammed in, and then you have everybody's like this wooden actor, you know.
So if you threw a match, they'd probably all combust, right?
Except for Brian Thompson. Brian Thompson is really good as usual. He's fun. He's sort of like he's not just a survival guide, but he's like an ex-Marine type guy, and he's just there to make sure everything happens, you know, works the way it's supposed to.
Yeah.
Bigfoot breathes like Darth Vader.
What?
Yeah, you can hear him breathing.
What?
It's weird. You just hear like yeah, you just hear this shit. That's the other thing. A lot of the kills take place at night, right?
Of course.
And you can't see a fucking thing. I was sitting watching and I was like, all right, what do I need to do? Okay, so I closed, like, I shut off all the light sources, you know, made sure my computer was plugged in so it wasn't, like, you know, not giving me, like, the lighting that I wanted. And you couldn't see a fucking thing. You can't see a damn thing. And there's clearly some sort of Bigfoot creature walking around.
We don't have the budget for the Bigfoot creature, so we're just going to make it so it's dark.
So eventually things start to go like crazy. Like they set up a couple Bigfoot traps, and then like the Charles B. Pierce type guy, he gets killed and he disappears, and they're sort of like looking for him. And then while
don't question me, old man, I'm gonna shoot you.
They get like chased around, and like there's this reporter that's there that doesn't need to be there at all. And she's a real cunt. So when she dies, is it actually her getting killed is the most satisfying part of the movie, because she doesn't die from a Bigfoot. The producer just shoots her in the head.
What the fuck?
It's pretty fucking. It was pretty good because she's just annoying through the whole thing. She's a real cunt. And not even like in a good way. You know what I mean? Like you're like, oh, she's doing a great job acting type of thing.
Okay.
No, this is legitimately just who she is or how she feels about it. And then they try to make like this weird sort of pretentious commentary about phones. So what ends up happening is you have a couple deaths here and there, right? The producer starts to like lose his mind because this is his last chance at his career. He's got all his money. So
God forbid the people are dying. No. It's all about my career.
Right, it's all about his fucking career. So he starts to get real stressed, which is why he shoots the reporter, because she is just yelling at him. She goes, when we get back, you ain't gonna be nothing. If you're lucky, they'll let you fetch my coffee. 2 sugars, 2 creams, bitch. Boom. And he goes, and he's like, oh, okay. Shoots her in the head, turns around, shoots another guy in the chest, and then points the gun at his cameraman. Doesn't kill all those people, but so before any of this starts, when the guy's in town, you know what I mean? He's looking for the father of the survivor.
So is this also a found footage film?
No, it is not.
Okay.
Not found footage at all. There's no found footage. But what happens is the guy he's looking for he's looking for the one of the victim's fathers, who's the guy he paid $2,500 a week for.
Of course.
He goes, where can I find this guy? And they go, oh, it's over here. He's in like some store.
Yeah.
And he walks out, and as he walks out, he bumps into this guy, and he's got this old woman with him who is just staring at him. She fucking hates him, right? And you don't if you're not paying attention, I mean, if you're stupid, you'll think that that's just a nothing scene that doesn't matter, but it's clear that it's supposed to matter later on, because what we find out in this woman has like 3 sons, right? And they are putting on Bigfoot costumes and running around the woods and killing people.
Why?
Because they don't want them on their land, and because they're cannibals.
Okay.
So we were talking about American Horror Story on like the last stream that we did when we were just bullshitting at the end of it, and I couldn't forget like what season 6 was or whatever. It was American Horror Story Roanoke. And I remembered this because watching the end of this movie is basically a ripoff of American Horror Story American Horror Story Roanoke.
Wow, that's pretty desperate.
So they've got this cannibal family that's like got people tied up, and she's got her sons, and like they kill the cameraman, they smash his face in with a hammer, and they just like cut him up and like make bacon out of them and shit like that. But then they like break out, they're able to get out, and like the woman obviously saves everybody, the primate expert, she saves everybody, you know,
because she's a strong, powerful woman.
She's a strong, powerful woman, and she beats people to death with like an iron pot, whatever they're called. You know what I mean? Yeah, sure, whatever. And then they run out of the woods, and then they're like, oh, it was them. They've been killing everybody this whole time. Or not. Bigfoot shows up and kills everybody who survived the cannibal family. That's the end.
Wow.
Everybody dies. Yes, everybody dies. I'm just making sure that I was making sure. It's clear that they watched, like I said, American Horror Story Roanoke. It's clear that
they ripped off Charles B. Pierce of all people.
They did a lot of like just jamming references in that didn't need to be in there, and they did. It's not. I would go out on a limb to say almost a third of this story is not theirs, as in like it's clearly ripped off from other sources. And there's no real originality there. It's like somebody watched American Horror Story Roanoke and was like, oh, that would be great, but instead of like a haunted house, it's Bigfoot.
It's Bigfoot.
And then you never know if it's the family or if it's Bigfoot killing people.
That's still
basically
that's
how
still
it
a
is.
retarded way to end your movie.
I agree, yeah. Jane Goodall to the rescue. That's right, John. Hint of Shrimp says, I liked Horror Story when I was in high school, but holy shit, it was really bad, all of it. Yeah, Shrimp, for me, the best season is season 2, but God, American Horror Story is so awful. And this season, this 1984 season, which is going to be about slashers, basically, and slasher films that come out in 84, just wait. Just fucking wait. You want to talk about
He's saying it right now. It's just edgy woke garbage.
It is. And that's because Ryan Murphy is trash.
Yep.
Ryan Murphy is just fucking trash. So, that is Dago on film.
All right. That was an interesting
That was
segment.
Hoaxed. I give it a 1 out of 5.
It sounds like a 1 out of 5 kind of film, not gonna lie.
It legitimately is not worth it's legitimately not worth your time. I mean, if you're into Bigfoot movies, sure. Like, I watched that movie that Willow Creek, I think it was, that Bobcat Goldthwait did. That movie was terrible. But it's still not as bad as this movie was.
I wonder if they still have it on Shudder. They might.
Willow Creek?
Yeah.
Oh, it got all this praise, and I watched it, and I was like, where's the Bigfoot? Like, it was just awful. I didn't enjoy it, so I know other people did. They really did enjoy it.
How dare they?
The part with the cannibals was the only good thing about this. That's true, Jenny. That actually wasn't bad. So the thing about American Horror Story is you only actually have to watch half of the season, and you'll miss nothing else.
Okay. Good TV show there.
Right. You can just end in the middle of the season, and you'll fucking miss nothing, because halfway through the season they'll have blown their load, and the rest of it is just fucking garbage. Except for that last season that just happened, Apocalypse. Boy, was that a terrible season. Holy fuck, it was so bad. Ryan Murphy is the Fred Freeberger of the horror genre. Says Gray. That's very true, Gray. All right, tonight, Gene.
Yes.
We are talking about a 5'2" tiny little manlet Jew named Harlan Ellison.
Correct.
He is from Cleveland, Ohio.
Of course.
He's a loudmouth little shit.
Yes.
He is a clear lefty.
Yes.
He is I don't want to call him a liar, but he's definitely an embellisher.
You would say he conflates his stories a lot then, right?
Yes, he embellishes. And I mean, he probably does a bit of fibbing here or there. There are
I mean, he did. He's dead now.
Yes. Well, I'm sure he, when he showed up at St. Peter's, getting him into heaven, he's like, I ain't a Jew. I'm not a Jew. Didn't you see me beat up all those thugs? He tells a lot of stories like that. He tells a lot of stories of like beating people up because they're doing bad things.
Mm-hmm.
But I imagine most of it is him actually getting his ass kicked.
Probably. And
then, like, because he has the platform, he can go on and sort of embellish it and come out the winner and shit. Mm-hmm. But he is sort of responsible for a lot of sci-fi. Yes. And I think the reason I actually like Harlan Ellison is because he really went and he took on Hollywood. And he won a lot of the time. And I know, Gene, you have a problem with plagiarism and shit like that.
Yes.
And he is a big sort of fighter against things like that. We will watch an interview about that later where he talks about that shit. And he's just this, he's rubbing it in their face. He wanted to put up like billboards and shit like that. Like, I beat him.
I beat them. I need billboards to prove I beat them. Harlan, you won. It's good enough. You don't need to rub it in people's faces constantly. Just saying.
Billy and Mandy. The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy Gray. It was a pretty fun show.
Yep.
Sounds like what Jennifer Lawrence did. Yeah, well, Jennifer, he's shorter than Jennifer Lawrence, that's for sure. Is Harlan. So, but also Harlan is responsible for The City on the Edge of Forever. Is that what it's called? Which is considered like the best, most quintessential episode of the original Star Trek.
Correct.
Which is about a giant space donut.
Yep.
that Harlan hated.
Do you want to show that right now? We have the clip.
We can watch whatever you want to watch, whatever you wanted to do, because you are in charge. So,
I mean, we're both in charge. It's our show, so.
Well, I just meant you're in charge of
the clips, yes.
The clips or whatever. But I would say that. So let me just list a couple things real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
City on the Edge of Forever, which is Star Trek. Memo from Purgatory, which is a autobiographical story that he wrote about his account of joining a gang.
Okay.
Just to write about them. It was part of the Alfred Hitchcock Hour.
What does he think he is, fucking Hunter S. Thompson all of a sudden?
Oh yeah, sure, probably. He wrote Soldier, which is an Outer Limits episode,
Correct.
and The Demon with the Glass Hand, which is another Outer Limits episode.
Which we'll see a little bit later too, because we have the video of them talking about James Cameron's Terminator.
Right, and those are the two episodes that he claims that were ripped off from Terminator. He wrote I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. Mm-hmm. He did the Jin No Chaser, Tales from the Dark Side episode, and he did a movie that we will watch on Friday called A Boy and His Dog. Which is a fantastic movie. I really do enjoy it.
I love the fact Harlan didn't enjoy the ending of it, so he actually went to go fund.
The ending of A Boy and His Dog is perfect. Mm-hmm. It's perfect. It's exactly what it has to be. And Blood, who is the dog, that's the dog's name, yes. Blood is a fantastic companion. He's fucking great. Yep. Now, he did write for other things. He wrote a couple stories for The Flying Nun, mm-hmm. Which he says he only wrote those stories so he could meet Sally Fields and have sex with her. It's the only reason he wrote scripts for The Flying Nun, so he could fuck her.
Wow.
Those are his own words. He's dead. He can't sue us. And I'm sure his estate isn't paying attention either.
No.
Porky, you posting the ending to Blood Debts? You some bitch. We will watch Blood Debts at some point for a movie night.
I'm sure we will.
I've got it on my list. But Gene.
Yes.
Let's watch a clip.
Sure. Let me just get this out of the way real quick. Get this back up, and let me move this. I gotta move the actual thing too. All right, let me get past this real quick.
You should tell him what.
Here is Harlan Ellison.
Yes.
Plagiarism in Hollywood. I had first, right? You want to just watch?
That works for me.
Okay.
Sure, yeah.
Let's just watch this.
Hold on. Pause for a second.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why we want to do this, we've always said we wanted to add a visual, and we tried to do that. Our hopes were snuffed out during the Western stream a couple months ago, and we've been playing it safe ever since then. But one of the reasons is we can only tell you so much about Harlan. You have to see Harlan in action to really get a grasp.
And what did you say to me earlier too when you saw Harlan again? What'd you say?
What?
You said he looks sort of like me.
Oh yeah, that's true. He does kind of look like you.
Why am I a clone of every single person?
I don't know what happened. I want to know is, are you the original copy, or is somebody else the original copy? That's what I want to know, because your exact DNA got spread out all over the fucking planet.
It sure did. I don't understand that.
It's that 5%, yep.
I mean, obviously the defiled garments are just spreading all over when they rot.
Gray says those 70 glasses, though. Gray, you know what was interesting is he's on a show called Tomorrow with Tom Snyder or some shit like that.
Yeah, it's Tom Snyder.
I watched all the interviews in chronological order, so it starts like almost in the 70s and goes to the 80s to the 90s, and you can just watch him change, you know, watch his sort of outfit and hairstyle change. As Rock said, like, how come no matter what Harlan does, he always has an asshole haircut?
Yeah, he does.
But you have to see Harlan Ellison for yourself. So go ahead, Gene.
All right.
Roll it.
I was hanging out. I went to Bloomie's and spent a little bread, and it was a nice day. I had
one of the pleasanter
days.
$337,000.
Cute, ain't it?
From ABC and Paramount.
And Terry Keegan. He's the main culprit in the matter.
Terry Keegan.
He should not go unmentioned.
All right. Now, tell us the story briefly as to what happened. I said that you had brought an idea to somebody, and that subsequent to their turning down the idea, you saw the idea on television.
Well, it's
I know it's more than that,
infinitely
but I
complex.
wanted to save something for you.
I'll give you the short of it. It's nice to see you again.
It's good to see
And
you.
you don't look Goyish at all.
There it is. There it is.
The Goyim.
Oh,
What do
he's
they have to
gonna
worry
tell
about?
the
Maybe the
joke.
Wonder Bread shipment is a little late. That's all.
Wonder
Anyhow,
Bread shipment.
let me see. I wrote a story.
You ever hear the bells on Christmas Day?
Don't start.
Goyim.
Want to hear a fast joke? Fast joke.
Well, I thought you said a crass joke.
No, fast joke. It's clean, too.
Oy vey.
They discovered there's life on Mars. They didn't
here we
know
go.
it because they're living underground, right? But they've been getting old reruns of I Love Lucy, so they send out words, send a typical human being, we're going to send out a typical Martian, we want to establish relations. So the human race presented with this incredible problem. Who do they send? Do they send, President Carter? Do they send Albert Schweitzer? They send Mike Wallace to interview her for 60 minutes. So he comes out of Mars, and the ground opens up like that, and out comes a little Martian. He's 2 feet tall, he's green, he's got one eye in the middle of his forehead, he's got a little stalk antenna, he's wearing a propeller beanie. So he comes across, and Wallace is trying to be cool. He says, hello, and the Martian says, hello, how are you? He says, are you a typical Martian? He says, yeah. He says, are all Martians green? He says, yeah. He says, yeah, some are a little more toward yellow, some a little more toward aqua, but basically we're all green. He says, you all got the one eye in the middle of the forehead? He says, yeah, some have a watery, some have an astigmatic. We all got the one, and the little antenna, yeah, we all get there. He says, and you all wear the little propeller beanie? He says, not the Goyim.
I heard it where they had diamonds instead of knuckles, but it's the same.
Diamonds instead of knuckles.
Not the Goyim.
I like that one better.
Okay, so
Like that
anyway,
better.
The story goes like this. A writer named Ben Bova and I wrote a story called Brillo about the first experimental robot cop. Now, I'll tell you what Brillo comes
The
from. It was
first
Ben's bad
experimental
pun. I'm not
robot
going to get
cop.
stuck with that one. Ben was saying,
Okay.
the
Rotor.
robot cop is Metal Fuzz, and Metal Fuzz is Brillo. Ha ha. Okay, anyhow. So we did the story called Brillo. Now, if you break up, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you if you break up. You got to say 137,000 for a show named Brillo.
$137,000.
go ahead, sir.
I had to come all the way from California to here.
You didn't have to. You wanted to be here.
That's true.
Okay.
Yeah, we waited 4
I
years
just
for
ordered
this
coffee
moment.
because he's
4
so
years
fucking
to tell
Jewish.
other writers they can
That's
fight him and
sweet.
beat him. We did the story. The story was published. It was in one of my books. About 3 years later, 73, I got approached. Did I want to do it as a
I'm still always
television
a
movie
little
and
bit
proposed
disturbed how
series?
much he looks like
Took it to
me.
an independent company. They took it to
Yeah, it
ABC
is
to
a
a guy
little
named Steve
disturbing,
Gentry,
Gene.
whom
A
we
little
discussed
bit.
on another program.
It's
some time ago.
you if you
Mr.
were
Gentry,
from
We've gone through them
Ohio.
all.
And
we have
like
we have
more
the best and the
Jewish.
worst.
And more
Or the worst and the
Jewish.
worst, whatever. In any case, Gentry loved it. We put it in production. They gave me a deal. I did treatment, first draft, final draft, even did story outlines for the rest of a series, for a proposed series. All along, they wanted me to change the robot, which looks like, this was 5 or 6 years before R2-D2, but that's what it looked like, a bigger R2-D2. They said, no one will go for that. With the ineluctable wisdom of the network honchos, they knew that no one would respond to a beep, 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 beep little robot, right?
Right.
Right, absolutely.
They don't sell any replicas of R2-D2. No
Doesn't
kids
make
want to
it-
buy those.
Right, worst picture ever made. Anyhow, they kept wanting me to make it into a human
worst
being. I said,
picture
you don't have the
ever
technology for that. I
He
will not
believes
do
that
it. I have
too.
some
Yeah,
obligation
he
to my craft.
hates-
Ain't gonna
he
do it.
hates
They
Star
could not
Wars.
get me to change it. So they passed on it. It was then shown to CBS and NBC by the production company. At NBC, which is in fact this very place, there was a man named Terry Keegan, who was in charge of West Coast development of new projects, films,
you
and
try
things of that
suing him,
nature.
Harlan?
It was shown to him. He looked at it. He passed
said
on
he's
it.
the
A few
main
months
culprit.
later, he showed up at Paramount as the head of their television department. It was shown to him there again. And he said, I passed on at NBC. I thought the robot should be human. And what actually happened, we put forth in court, was that he didn't want to work with me because he knew that I was intractable and would not change things. Subsequently,
He's not
6
wrong,
months
is he,
later,
Harlan?
Oh
Terry
no.
Keegan sold to ABC
He writes a
to
story,
Steve
that's how it
Gentry,
should be.
a show called Future Cop, in which the first experimental robot cop works with a human cop on a police beat, day-to-day police beat. It was my show, except for one major change. They'd made it a human robot. It was an android. When I saw it, I wanted to file immediately. My attorney said, forget it, man. He said, 90% of all plagiarism suits, the plaintiff loses. Besides, these guys will kill you. You'll never work in this town again, which I've been, don't throw me in the briar patch, please. And everybody said, forget it. You can't fight City Hall. It was eating my heart out. I couldn't stand it.
Did you see the episode on the air?
Yeah.
I mean, you knew it was coming,
Yeah.
and so you sit down in your house and you watch it on television.
Well, I had known about it first because I'd read a thing in the trade papers about it, and I said, that looks awfully much like Brillo, and it's the same people doing it who had done Brillo. So
Yeah.
they got to know the similarities. They should have at least spoken to me and said, hey, we're doing something like that. But they didn't. But I was put off by a guy at Paramount who was supposed to be a friend of mine. And he said, oh, no, it's completely different, completely different. When it came on the air, I called him. I said, man, what is this? Why'd you tell me that? Well, turned out he was being a bit duplicitous with me, as it turned out later.
I wonder
Make a
why.
long story ridiculous.
Yeah.
2 years go by, the attorney wouldn't do anything. I paid money out, he wouldn't do anything, he said nothing could be done. Finally, I got so aggravated that my agent, Marty Shapiro, his wife had become an attorney by that time.
Marty Shapiro?
So we were talking about it one night. She said, come on over to our firm. She says, I think there's a guy there you may get along with. And I went over and I met a guy named Henry Holmes, Henry W. Holmes Jr., who is Zorro, man. I mean, this guy is like a Attila the Hun. He's dynamite. He's the feistiest attorney I've ever. I mean, we got along instantly.
Okay.
It was scorching. I mean, our fangs were dripping blood. I said, these suckers ripped me off. I want them. And he said, there's going to be a long, hard fight. Are you in for the stay? And I said, yeah. The firm wouldn't let me take it on contingency. I had to go out every weekend and lecture to make the money
but I love
to
this
pay the attorneys. Every weekend. 2 years after that, we're now talking 4 years later, we go into federal district court, and boy, they tried to muddy the waters. They did everything. They said that Ben and I had ripped off the story from Isaac Asimov's book, Cage of Steel. So we went to New York. I've known Isaac for 25 years. And Isaac, in his deposition, said, I've known Harlan for 25 years. He said, you don't steal from your friends.
Oh, that was the guy.
Harlan's many things, but he's not stupid. He wouldn't steal from the most famous book in science fiction.
Whoever he just said.
Isaac's modest, but, you know,
Isaac Asimov.
Isaac Asimov is who defended him. That's who you were talking about.
Yes.
I know you don't. I have money. I'm a wealthy Jew. I don't have to steal. I heard about the International Jewish Money Conspiracy, right? And I said, there's somebody out there who's got 2 shares because I'm broke.
Somebody out there got 2 shares?
And I got it from the Goy. So we went into court, and there were 8 people. It was a 6-person jury and 2 alternates. And I'll tell you, when I got in there, I said, I can't make it. I said, these are just average people. They're not going to understand these complex, plagiarism suits. I'll tell you, it's one of the most salutary things. It has reassured me about American system of jurisprudence. These 6 people worked their backs off, and they really understood, and they worked and worked at it, and they came in, and when they came in with a judgment of $337,000, which is the largest jury verdict ever handed down in a plagiarism suit in that town, the judge had a coronary. I mean, the judge was startled, not to mention what happened at ABC and Paramount. And I did it, and I spent the 4 years, probably because I'm crazy. Because I got the phone calls from the studio late at night.
Don't say, Harlan. I'll spend all this time and money trying to get more money. What a shock.
Half of his money is made through these types of lawsuits.
Yes, it is.
And I said, writers have got to know that they can fight them. And we did, and we beat him, and now we're putting up the billboards in Hollywood.
This is why I like him.
What is the billboard going to say? I quoted something, but you tell me in your words what
Well, I have to clear this with my attorney so that they're out to get. They said, we're going to nail you. They said, you're going to make a misstep, and we're going to nail you. So I got to be careful what I say. But it will say words to the effect of, I caught them with their hands in my pocket, and we pinned them to the wall. Writers take heart. Don't let them steal from you.
That's the billboard he wants to put up in Hollywood.
You after the verdict was in as saying that there's a lot of plagiarism going on in the industry.
Every day. Every day.
How much is plagiarism, and how much is something that might be called just the coincidence of a creative idea occurring to 2 people at the same time? That can happen.
That can
it's called
indeed
parallel
happen.
thinking.
Yeah, and it does happen. There was another show on right around the time of Future Cop called Holmes and Yo-Yo, which was about a robot cop. But it was done by Leonard Stern, who had created Get Smart. And I knew damn well Leonard Stern didn't have to steal from
like Sherlock Holmes?
That was in the Get Smart series.
Oh, no.
But
I just realized he said the guy's last name was Stewart. That's probably why I didn't sue him.
These people do not perceive of themselves as thieves. They think any idea. In fact, Keegan was quoted in the Herald Examiner, the LA Herald Examiner, as saying, "I've been in this business 18 years and I've never seen anything original. Everything is a variation on everything else." He really believes that.
I'm adopted, and holy shit, did this lady fuck
DJ
me
and the Bears, a ripoff of Smoking Bandit. Battlestar Ponderosa is a ripoff of Star Wars. They're all one steal after another. There were 2 young women who had come up with the idea for the Good Time Girls, series called the Good Time Girls.
Harlan is 5'2", by the way.
And the Good Time Girls went on, and they went to an attorney, and they said, you got to do something. They had no bread. So the studio said, we'll give you 10 grand to shut your mouth and go away and stop bothering us. They took it because they're broke. They haven't got any bread.
Got to have the 10 grand, sure.
That's right. It's better to have 10 grand than to try and fix one of these monoliths and try and knock off their kneecaps.
When they say, we're going to get you, if in fact somebody said that to you, that would mean that they could lock you out of writing for television,
will challenge
you probably would hate an awful lot.
Well, I haven't written anything for television in 7, 8 years anyhow. Yeah, more than that, they can lock you out of movies. They can tie you up in legalities. They got floors and floors of
70s bagel boss.
Let me tell you one thing that they said.
Yeah.
Now, I will not, I know who said this, but I will not credit it to the person because they would get me for libel. But it was reported to other attorneys.
I don't want to be
between
sued.
some very high officials at Paramount and some attorneys who were there.
So
on
he's not
going to
say who said it to him.
No.
Me and my attorney, Henry Holmes, and myself, they said, Ellison and Holmes are a couple of uppity niggers. They said, we can't afford him to win because this isn't a nuisance suit. This guy's a professional. He's in the business. We can't let him win. Ellison's a troublemaker and Holmes is a charlatan.
He just said niggers on television.
I said, Henry would offer the option.
It's the 70s. So.
Yeah. So there are nuisance suits.
But Harlan is a big promoter
coming up, which I know very little about it, but it would seem to me that that's a nuisance suit because it's based on the film was based on Avery Corman's novel, and everybody knows that. But there are people who are amateurs, and they don't really know. When you're talking about a professional, I mean, I've been in the industry for 18 years, man. I've won the Writers Guild Award 3 times more than anybody else. I got books coming out of my ears. I got credentials. This is the first lawsuit I've ever been involved in. That I've ever come to fruition. But
I'm just thinking of him saying 18 years and how many times he has not written for television because of his attitude.
The arrogance. The consummate arrogance of these people, because they know they are protected front and back by the corporation. They know that they can steal. I mean, look at the other things that are going down with ABC and the Aaron Spelling, Len Goldberg thing. I mean,
you mean on Charlie's Angels?
On Charlie's
involving
Angels.
the Wagners.
The creative accounting thing in Hollywood is an evil and a sin that everybody knows about, and nobody does anything about it because there's only a certain number of markets, and you mess with them, you blow the whistle on them, forget it, you're out of work. They put you in the can.
Something going to happen now.
Put you in the can.
Yeah, something going to happen now. Let me do spots here. We'll continue with Harlan Ellison after this for the NBC television station.
Can you pause it?
Yeah, I'll pause.
Okay, so
1 second. I'm just gonna get the window capture back up so it's you and me. There we go. Visual element.
So the thing about Harlan is, look, I watched a lot of these episodes. He is very obnoxious. He's very punchable. He talks a lot of shit. But what he's saying about Hollywood is 100% true.
Correct.
They plagiarize, they steal your ideas, especially from little people who they know they can't fight them.
Get it? Little people because Harlan's 5'2".
He's got a short temper.
Very short personality. And short stature.
So like the story he told about those black women who wrote a story and it was clearly plagiarized and they offered him $10,000 to just fucking go away.
Yep.
Harlan does a lot of fighting for writers and shit like that. He's even said like writers are the ones who make the stories. It's not the actors, it's not the directors, it's not writers, and all they do is get shit on. And he's not wrong at all. That's why you get all these writer strikes.
Yes.
Because without writers, and we've been through a couple writer strikes in the last decade, at least 2. And your favorite show, in the middle of your favorite show, the second or third season will have completely different writers because all those other people are on strike.
Correct.
And your shows just falter. They go down because you don't have good writers. You've got scabs working and shit like that. Not that I'm against that kind of thing, but writers don't get the respect that they deserve.
No.
And they're constantly trying to change your work, and then they'll steal your ideas and everything like that. Now, of course, there's such a thing as intellectual property.
Yes.
But I agree with when Harlan does this stuff. Even if some of his lawsuits are nuisance suits, some of that stuff is needed to keep these people on their toes, to keep them in line. Hollywood is a fucking machine. It is a corporation, and it needs to rage against the machine, man. Like, bring it down, dude.
Bulls on parade. God.
So I do agree with him. Now, it's clear, depending on if it comes up in some of the other interviews we watch. I mean, we'll see as we go through this. But, he is obnoxious. He does talk a load of shit sometimes, especially when he's pretending to be a fucking tough guy. So writers rise up. Thank you, John. Exactly. Rhino Ramgoose says, "Hey, Gene."
Oh, hey, how's it going?
Okay, that's all. I just wanted to give that quick little thing while he was on a break. You can play if you can.
Yeah, 1 second. I'm gonna get the window capture away, and now let's go back to Harlan.
Back now with Harlan Ellison. Can we wrap this up now and go on to other facets of your life? Because I want to get to the part where the states you won't go into that haven't ratified the ERA, because I would assume you still have that.
Still do that.
Going.
Hold on, pause again.
But was there one little key that you found
What's
in this?
the ERA?
The ERA. I don't know.
Okay, because I don't know. He talks a lot about this in this next thing. He talks about the ERA. I don't know what it is. Someone in chat probably knows what it is.
1 second. Let me just type it in real quick on Google.
Yeah, he's basically going to talk about how there are states he's not going into because they won't ratify it. So it's sort of like the abortion thing you're getting today, where Hollywood is boycotting certain states because they have abortion laws. Equal Rights Amendment. Thank you, Cindy.
The Equal Rights Amendment. Yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm for equal rights. Look.
Yeah.
Equal rights is fine for me. I don't have a problem with that. You know, everybody has the equal right to be an asshole. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You like with equal rights, it makes it a lot easier to sort of discriminate against pieces of shit.
Yep.
So I have no problem with that. It's not against the law to be a piece of shit.
Nope.
I mean, depending on what you do to be a piece of shit, sure. Yeah. And it's not against the law to be an asshole, sure. And I don't think we're necessarily talking about that.
I think the only thing that people have or had a problem with the ERA, the Equal Rights Amendment, or the thing about it was the fact in general of people just thinking that, you know, and I think it had something to do with, like, you know, the LGBT kind of thing too, is that they felt like it would be, you know, people eventually just asking for more and more before they had more rights. And technically that is a truism in that too.
Oh, yeah, it's very true. It's very true. And a lot of these old interviews, it's very much like Mondo Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
You can see the cancer starting, and when you know where it leads today, you know these people are wrong.
Yeah.
So Strug says equal rights. How about equal lefts? How about them apples? Equal rights and lefts. Okay, go ahead.
Yep.
Case that made you and your attorney realize that you had them.
Yeah. You see, when you start this thing, you think, maybe I'm paranoid. Maybe it really was independent creation. You know, I mean, you're reluctant to get into this kind of hassle.
Yeah.
During the depositions with Terry Keegan, we're sitting there, and my attorney, Henry Holmes, says to him, did you ever read Brillo? Did you ever see Brillo? He says, no. I've never read it. I never saw it. In the back of my head, a bell goes off. Because I remembered a party at the head of the production company, Alan Lansbury's company, the Christmas guy who was doing the script. And I was there. Terry Keegan, we sat and talked for 20 minutes. I said, now why would the man lie if there wasn't something to hide? And I came out to Henry, I said, Henry, there's something here. There's a conspiracy here. This guy did it, and he did it with malice aforethought. And they gave us punitive damages, which I understand you're not allowed to give unless there is malice.
There's an F currently.
And since they did that, I can safely say that, I presume.
People might be saying F. My thing just dropped for a second.
And tracking back. We found that memos had been burned over Paramount, destroyed, that would have proved access to Keegan to this material, because he was the conduit to the writer.
I don't know either. It's something with OBS, I think.
Says Showa, I fucking, it's back.
Yeah, I said there's something going down here.
Are we back, guys?
Yeah, I didn't get Showa.
2 years to find
it's just the fact that the OBS has been having this recent issue recently where it goes to like 0 for some reason. I have no idea why.
They were going to appeal.
I don't know why it does that either.
And I think they knew they were going to lose on the appeal. And they hassled it around and around and around and around. They said, well, and they settled with us for a total of $285,000.
Don't worry, I don't think we're getting Showa for showing Harlan Ellison. This was fucking forever ago.
So we got $285,000.
So they give you a check, and that's
the end.
This
is clearly off someone's VHS,
we
too.
Won, man. We won.
Yeah, but you often wonder when you read about settlements involved,
what they're really going to get?
What they're going to get, and how long does it take to get the money? I mean, once the verdict is in, then I presume that they owe you the money immediately.
The only reason we haven't gotten the money now is that Ben went off on a vacation to Italy with his wife, and if he had been here to sign the agreement, we'd have had the bread in hand right now. I could have showed you the check.
Sure hope nothing happens to Ben's boat. You're right. Ben's sailing with your money. I was going to say our money in his pocket. Not your money in his pocket.
Base
We're in Time magazine this week.
I know you are.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I can't help it, man.
The Harlan Ellison story. I feel like it's starring Harlan Ellison, written by Harlan Ellison, conceived by Harlan Ellison.
It's so good to buck them, Tom. I mean, to take them on and beat them so bad they're really hurting. I mean, there's no way they can weasel on this sucker. We got him.
Don't be a bad winner.
I'm not a bad winner. I'm sorry. They put me through such merd, though.
he's really he is checking Harlan a lot the whole time. That's great.
Okay. He does in every interview I watch. He checks him the whole time.
Well, I'm not really, you know, I'm still doing the ERA thing, and I'm still writing my books. I got a new book coming out in November called Shatter Day. And it's the only thing I've been able to write in the last 2 years because of, you know, and I'm finishing up a movie.
That's a weird name for a
based on a wonderful book called Blind Voices. It sounds like one of those terrible things on the Carson show where some schlub comes in and says, and I'm playing the Secaucus Music Theater next Thursday.
You won't be hearing as much of that as you used to.
It's an hour now.
It's an hour now.
Yeah.
No, not now.
Not coming.
September, yeah.
Coming. I think he needed the money for buying the hotel in Vegas.
Stop on him now, will you please?
I'm not allowed to talk about it.
Well, you can talk, but the man made his deal, and let's all be happy that the announcement.
Listen, he doesn't hurt anybody. He's a nice man.
He's very nice.
Keeps a lot of people off
the streets. Not anymore.
And a lot of people employed out there in Burbank, too.
That's very true.
What about the television season this year? Have you watched any of it?
Would you like me to pause?
I'll tell you, when I stopped writing TV and went into honest
just pause
like
for a quick second.
Okay.
Now, this is at a time when the Fairness Doctrine was coming out. So, in some of these other interviews and shit like that, like, if you bring up someone's name and you start talking about them, they have the right to demand equal time on the same show. And there is an interview where he says, please don't tell any names because I don't want to have to, like, we have a schedule and I don't want to have to give these people equal time just because you're out here ranting and raving about them. So just don't mention any names, which is sort of why Tom is trying to,
be the Fairness Doctrine in a sense.
Yeah, he's trying to buck the Fairness Doctrine a little bit, which is a policy created by liberals because nobody listens to fucking liberals.
No.
So they had to have this Fairness Doctrine, and it gets more prevalent in like the 80s. So that's all I want to say. You can keep playing, but like the Fairness Doctrine, just take that into mind when he's not saying some names.
Okay, because those people would get airtime too then.
Right, they have the right to come on and demand it, and you have to give it to them.
Ugh.
So,
or something like that. I felt that there was really no need for me to have to ever watch it again. So I bought a Betamax, and I took the movies, and I look at the movies, and we've got the cable, and I'll be darned if I know what's coming on. I understand there's a series about a guy who falls in love with an elephant, which reminded me of my mother, the car. I said, history is, repeating itself. But
I have no idea what show he's talking about.
That was on last year and the year before. It is so dreadful, Tom. I mean,
so dreadful.
I mean, here you are. The only people who are awake at this hour are dipsos, cocaine freaks, and intellectuals. And nobody pays any attention to any of those people.
I know.
Intellectuals.
Funny about television, though, isn't it? Everybody keeps trying to make it something that it really can't be. Like you complain about it and say that its quality isn't there and that it feeds off of several ideas and shows become spin-offs of other shows. Have you ever watched the public access cables?
Yeah.
It's absolutely horrendous what goes on public access television.
But it's ingenuous because they have nothing to work with.
But I mean, here they had this great idea to say, well, the public has a right to have access to television. Yeah. So therefore, we'll open up these channels on the cable, and the public can then apply for time, and they can come on and do television. And what do they come up with? I mean, have you seen some of the stuff? I don't know how much you get in California, but here in New York, there are, what, 3 or 4 channels? It's horrendous, for heaven's sake.
Yeah, but you got amateurs doing it. I mean, if they were professionals doing that kind of thing, like if a little theater group got on, and they got a decent cinematographer, and they got a decent director, and they said, give us a couple hours a week, they could put something good on. But basically all it is now is ego feed. And that's cool. That's cool.
That's cool.
I got this theory that dudes like Son of Sam and Manson would not have done the terrible things they did if they'd been given 20 minutes on the
Manson did nothing wrong.
Honest to God, that's all those donuts want. They want to be looked at. I'm real. I'm here. I exist. Yeah. I'm not a... Believe I'm real. You
believe it, I'm real.
You sit talking to them the way you're talking to me. The reality is substantial.
Cindy says cocaine freaks, says the man talking a mile a minute.
Yeah. Got a point. If they could see themselves on television and realize that people were listening to them.
He's high on his Judaism.
Watching the two.
Yeah.
But everybody sitting out there, we are real. We are realer, if that word exists, than the neighbors next door or the people that bagged their groceries at the grocery today. There is a thing about television. There's a reality here that is terrifying.
Could you imagine him on double the speed?
That the thing that soap operas actually happen.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And she gets crazy when something bad happens. I mean, she's completely out of her mind. It's a strange medium, and I think, as I've said before, it's a very dangerous medium, because the blurring of the line between reality and fantasy is so omnipresent. And
well, he's not wrong with that either.
That occurred to me.
Yeah.
For the first time in the history of the world, we have what could be called a universal curriculum, meaning that a kid in Botswana and a kid in Bayonne, New Jersey, they all have the same impression of male, female, rich, poor, the working class, the rich class, and that sort of means that you really can't have much individualism, because you're going to be called a wacko by everybody around you. Well, you don't fit that cliche. I think that's very dangerous. I've stunned you into silence.
No, I don't know if it's dangerous.
Well, the only thing that moves society forward, that moves the universe forward, are the people who are...
The chosen?
I have to pick the right word, and I don't know the right word. Nobody can convince me that when Albert Einstein was a young man forming his theories, he was not better than everybody around him. I mean, he really was better. He was smarter, quicker, and cleverer. But he was weird. I mean, a man couldn't find the buttons on his cardigan.
Eccentric.
Yeah. Eccentric.
That's because he was dyslexic, Harlan.
But when you're constantly being pressed down by your peer group in school, in church, in the home, I mean, everybody's parents wants them to be a nice, grow up to be a doctor,
Strug says he's a Jim Harlan Simon Theodore.
Don't get in trouble. Don't say weird things.
Harlan!
Look, I got some questions about the Bible. I mean, if Adam and Eve were the only two, and there was Cain and Abel, then who was living over there in the land of Nod for them to get married to? I mean, you got to start asking some questions. A lot of homes, that doesn't go. They don't want to know from that. And school is essentially a way of keeping kids busy so they don't bother the parents during the day.
Exactly, and not asking any questions that the professors can't answer.
No,
that's another thing.
education, Harlan doesn't
that
do that.
rabble-rousing, stuff, they're gonna put you away or put the teachers away. And television, I think, keeps people bland. Howard Cosell talks about the sports on TV, and he's a very bright man in some ways. He talks about sports as being the toy shop of life. It keeps people's attention diverted. As long as you can root for some mythical small family like a baseball team or a football team, you don't have to think about the condition of the world and how you can better it. And that's...
Well, it's a break from reality is what it is.
Is the message that if you
damn, no breaks from reality. Got to be real all the time.
Courage and you're crazy enough to have tenacity.
Now let's watch TV with Harlan Ellison talking how we should be.
He should have been on Mystery Science Theater. I would have loved to
a lot of us are wrong
get him to
in many
do
ways
commentary
that
for
aren't
shitty
as
movies.
as the wrong that was done to you. You talk about
I can
television
imagine
being a danger. I think one of the great dangers that television
hey, they
does
stole this idea from
is
me.
the constant reinforcement of actions of officials and government that sometimes should not be reinforced.
Well, there's that too.
Okay.
It maintains
Harlan,
it is an implement of the establishment.
Why are you smoking on the air?
Is okay. How many times have we heard the line, the president, I don't mean Carter, I mean anybody who's been president since television, the president spent the weekend working, period. He says, wow, boy, the president worked all weekend. How do we know he worked all weekend? What did he work at?
Carter certainly didn't work.
No, he did not.
What kind of a story is that to put on, for heaven's sake?
I don't want to hear that anyhow.
No, well, I don't want to hear that if it isn't true. Yeah, well, we'll get on the government in a second. But
we'll get on the government in a second.
Continue with Harlan Ellison.
I love when Tom talks about him and the government. There's some from the 80s, like 85, where they talk about like Ronald Reagan and shit.
This fucking music.
Tomorrow with Tom Snyder.
No. Okay. Well, what about the campaign? Are you politically active in this campaign this
season?
No, but I decided who I'm going to vote for.
Finally.
Jenny.
I've been listening to all of this stuff, and I'm, the most you could say for Jimmy Carter is that the man tries to be honest. He tries to do his job. I don't think anybody can really...
Absolutely not. And I feel for him. I think he's a loyal American, a hard-working guy, and it's just falling all around him.
It's pathetic.
It is.
But
boy, how wrong were they?
To put Ronald Reagan into the office. I mean, just, that red dye number 9 is eating away his brain.
Now, you say that, and I got they did a thing on the news here last night or the night before where they, take facts and stack them up against some of the things that Ronald Reagan says on the podium, and that they don't quite mesh.
Yeah.
And he had a program for cutting taxes 10% a year for 3 years, balancing the budget, more defense. And the reporter asked him, Governor, what if you're wrong? And Reagan came back with what I thought was a pretty good answer. He said, well, if I'm wrong, will it be any worse than it is now? Now think about that for a second. People talk about Ronald Reagan being the most terrible thing that could happen to this country because that's a knee-jerk liberal reaction. That'd be my instant reaction.
Thank you.
They say, well, Ronald Reagan, he's going to really bollock it up.
I'm from California.
You're not from California.
Remember that it was Ronald Reagan.
You're from Cleveland.
And his response to the free speech movement at Berkeley that started all the riots on the campuses in the late 60s. I mean, his instant thing was call out the militia because they used a dirty word in the campus poetry magazine.
That's a lie.
Ronald Reagan makes me nervous because that man thinks in terms of war.
They started the riots.
He's got some of the
That's why he brought in the militia.
Yep.
And I just, he scares the hell out of me.
Okay, well then that's fair if you're scared.
Okay. Over the last few months, I've been listening to all these people, to Bush and everybody, and I know, who the dickens can I vote for? And all of a sudden, I started listening to Anderson. And at college campuses, I've been doing a lot of lecturing to pay for the lawsuit, and I would say, just from the podium, just kind of casually, I think I'm going to vote for Anderson, and the audience would go crazy. I said, by God, there is a groundswell out there for John Anderson. And I read the interview that he just did with Playboy, and it's a very... it's suicidal. He actually talks about Reagan and says the things about Reagan that he you don't attack him, that's the 11th commandment.
He doesn't mention lust in his heart, does he?
No, he doesn't mention lust in his heart, but he's very forthright, And he takes positions in that interview that are suicide for a man running for office. And I said, the man's got chutzpah. He's got some guts. And if he's only half right, he sounds reasonable. He's a Republican. I've never voted Republican in my life.
Well, what a shock.
Now, I'm switching. I'm going to switch. I'm going to vote for him.
My internet
I like the way
dropped
they
out.
introduced some of the candidates.
Yeah,
You never
but the
hear
stream
them
didn't
say,
go
for
down.
example, what a
No,
George
because
Bush rally.
I'm doing it.
And
Yeah.
now here is former CIA director.
Cindy's got a good point. Look at Berkeley now.
Here's
No
the man
speech.
who put us into Chile. And the man who gave us the Bay of Pigs.
See, now they're not wrong about Bush.
I don't know if he did that. I don't think he was there then.
He wasn't there then?
Well, it goes way
Can't
back
get him
into
for
the
that?
60s. I think Alan Dulles.
Can't get him
was
for
in
that,
there.
Harlan.
Dulles,
You're
right, was the man
wrong.
who put us into the Bay
But
of
they never
Pigs.
say, and now here he is, former CIA director George Bush, the next president of the United States. They
He
leave
was
that
a
part
former
out, you know,
CIA
kind of
director?
switch around.
Here's the man who played
Yes.
second
I actually
banana in
I did
Dead
not
Time
know
for
that.
Vodka, Ronald Reagan.
Ah, now you know, right?
Played second banana to a chimp.
A lot of that makes a
won't give
lot
up,
of
will you?
sense.
I'm innocent. My hands are clean.
Yeah, tonight
No,
they
they're
are.
not.
He did
What
more than
about
play
tomorrow
second
night?
banana to a
I
chimp,
love it when
though.
they talk about Anderson, you know, as to whether or not he has a chance. They say, well, he has no chance. And what could
And he
happen is
clearly
that he would
didn't.
create a crisis by possibly throwing the election into the House of Representatives, and that would be a terrible thing.
Oh, terrific. Crisis is good.
Crisis
If
is
that's
good.
a crisis, then how come it's in the Constitution that if there is a three-way tie or nobody gets the sufficient number of electoral votes, that it does go to the House? The Founding Fathers and Mothers had a provision for that.
Founding fathers
That's
and
what it's
mothers.
all
Why should it be a crisis
Strux
now that it
says
would be the
change
most
his
terrible
story
thing if it
to
ever
I have
happened?
no
They
mouth
said
and I
Prop
must
13 was going to be a
kvetch.
crisis in California. We sailed through it
Oy
without any
vey.
problems. I mean, you know, everything is exactly the way it was before. We got all the services. Maybe a few people had, you know,
Just
got
remember
kicked off the
again,
payroll.
Chet, he
It
is
was
the
a
voice
terrific
of
thing.
AM,
Howard Travis
literally,
was a hero.
because he-
the same thing will happen. We'll work
because
our
he
way through it.
wanted
I
to
think a
channel
good
his
crisis every
anger
once in a
because
while
he's
in this
angry
country
at everybody.
will keep our blood circulating. I mean, God knows we have to atone for Vietnam somehow. I'm all in favor of a good crisis.
You're
How's
right.
the ERA
Liberals
going for
do
you?
have to
It's
atone
not
for
going for me.
Vietnam.
I do very little. I'm a
Just
I'm
losing
a
it.
peon in the fields. It's, you know, it hasn't gotten any further. They still got it stopped in Illinois, and they got it stopped in all the southern states. It's really sad. See, that's another thing I like about Anderson. Anderson's for the ERA. He says he finds it impossible that anyone would object to a simple thing put in the Constitution that says you cannot discriminate on the basis of sex. And that's all it says. It doesn't say anything else about unisex toilet. That knocks me out. Imbeciles like
here
Phyllis
we go.
I don't know what to tell you something. Phyllis Schlafly. If Phyllis Schlafly walked into the headlights of my car, I would knock her into the next time zone.
No, come on.
I would do it. I would do it. That woman is mischievous. She's a mischievous woman. She says terrible things. Unisex toilets. Every home in America has a unisex toilet.
True.
No one else is, you know, I mean, there's no degeneracy that we know of because of that. I mean, we are Foursquare for motherhood, apple pie.
See, now we
flag,
see
yeah.
now when we look at like Target
they spread all this
unisex
terrible
bathrooms
craziness.
Remember,
and all the
did you
children
read
who
that
are
story
having
in
to
the
go
LA
with
Times about a year ago, and
transgender
maybe 2 years ago in
perverts.
Orange County, they were building a new
Orange
recreational
County.
facility, and they figured out how much money it would save if they built toilet facilities that could be used by both sexes with proper locks on the doors.
Yeah.
That instead of
Proper
having one
locks.
for the guys and one for the gals, times 8 or whatever it would be at this recreation center, they'd save something like, I don't know, $1,200,000 or something like that. And they were up in arms about it. What do you mean men and women going to the bathroom in the same place? But as you say, every home in America.
Airplanes. All the airplanes.
True.
Yeah, but not
no
at
one
the
thinks
same
a thing about
time.
it.
Yeah.
I mean, all you do is knock. If the door is locked, you say,
Not
excuse me, I'll come back later.
strangers, it's your
You know,
family.
That's sense. God, we're so
Harlan.
rational. Why are there so many cuckoos in the world?
Like you?
What's funny is they think we're nuts.
There are people sitting out there saying, those degenerates, those monsters.
want to go in there and watch other people in the bathroom.
One of the least
Jesus, they're both
appetizing sights
wrong.
in the world.
It's so
Don't even,
painful.
no.
Second only to watching
Yeah,
people eat.
they are
No,
both
no,
wrong.
no, no,
However,
don't do it to me.
later
Not
on
second.
in one of the
That is
interviews,
second
Tom
only to watching
admits
people
that he
eat.
did vote for Ronald
You go to
Reagan.
Nate Now's Delicatessen on Sunday morning.
Right to-
you
right
to
break your mouth.
Harlan's
Honest to God,
face.
you want to forget it. Watch it.
Delicatessen.
Sex. Sex is the third thing.
Of course he's at a
you ever
deli.
see people, well, of course, everybody's seen a porn film one time. The positions are so silly. I mean, it is to giggle. It is to laugh. If you could see, the people who watch in mirrors knock me out. How could they watch without breaking up completely, falling on the floor? It would destroy
That's
me.
probably because you can't get into most of
I
those
close my eyes
positions,
and I
Harlan.
don't know.
Yeah, right. Except, what was the great line Dick Martin had? I won't even say the great line on the air that Dick Martin had because it's a little bit off color.
It's off
Thanks for coming
color.
in here tonight.
Thank you for having me.
I want to talk to Carol Ryder and get my future in order, you know what's coming up.
I think that's
I
necessary.
agree.
Yes, it is.
I agree,
Yeah.
Greg.
Can
I
I go
love
to the
when
hills with you
interviews
with
are
the double
like
up,
this.
yeah.
And they're not like this
Ready. If
anymore.
you ever
Now
need
it's
a
all
place to
just
stay, you know
fucking...
that.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And save the money.
Save the money.
All right. Thanks, Harlan
Save
Ellison.
the money
We
to
will continue
Harlan
after this
Ellison.
now for the
Say
NBC
that to
television
him.
stations and tell you about the rest of the week.
Okay.
All right, before we go on to the next video.
Yeah, let's pause.
So like I was talking about with Mondo Hollywood, earlier. I like looking at these old interviews, these old documentaries, because you can see, like, now that you're at the this point in the timeline, you can see the cancer. Harlan is clearly wrong. Tom was clearly wrong.
Yes.
There are perverts going into unisex bathrooms now. Just look at Target and all the problems they've had with it. And they're going in there, and a lot of them are transgendered, and they're going in there and they're looking at your kids and they're touching your kids when you go in there. There are women being, like, raped in the bathrooms and shit like that. All kinds of that shit is happening. And it's just, liberals are wrong. They always say nobody wants to do this. We're not communists. Yes, you are. These people aren't perverts. Yes, they fucking are.
Yeah, they fucking are.
You can always see the cancer, and I like going back. This is why I like these videos. They're like time capsules, you know? And you can go back and you can see. There's another interview where he's even talking about Marvel Comics and how Marvel Comics is collapsing and it's shit now and it's all this stuff. And it's the same thing that's happening today. It's these weird little patterns that we go through as a human species.
I'd always remind, one of the best quotes I've ever heard in my life is this one. It's, history repeats because people fail to learn from it.
Yes, exactly. And that's true. And the thing is, people haven't changed.
No.
Our clothes have changed. Our technology has changed, but we're still the same fucking cavemen that we were.
Yes, correct.
And we pretend to be civilized and we do all these things, but I mean, I believe 80% of the population is a piece of shit anyway. And the other 20% are worse than that.
Yep.
So, and that includes myself and everything like that. I'm not sitting up, I'm not on my cross or anything like that,
Wops can't go on crosses.
No, we're usually at the bottom, sticking in the side.
Are you dead yet? Are you dead yet? I got pasta on the stove. You dead yet?
Jenny says, saying nigger is fine, but that joke is off color.
I don't know what the joke was. Probably something about Jews, I guess, if he's not going to say it to Harlan's face.
Sweet says, if I find out Harlan was a kitty toucher, I'll just cement everything. Is Jenova in the 20%? No, Sweets, I am not. Now, before we go on to the next thing, which we're gonna go in his Star Trek episode.
Yeah.
So the thing about that is, before we even go there, now Harlan went to Ohio State University.
Yes.
He was kicked out for punching a professor.
Okay.
The professor told him he couldn't write for shit and he would never be a writer. He needs to give it up. So Harlan punched him. Now, the next year, Harlan sold 4 stories.
Mm-hmm.
The year after that, he sold 122 stories. And that's because his stories were good and they were selling. And he was a good writer, no matter what your teachers tell you. And I don't want to keep reiterating the same thing, but these are the reasons I do. I don't agree with him politically. I don't agree with his obnoxious remarks or his phony, I beat this guy up, I did this, I saved the day here. I don't agree with that. But when it comes to sort of fighting against Hollywood or pushing back against people who tell you that you're shit and you're never going to accomplish anything, I agree with that wholeheartedly, and I believe in the way he does it. I think that professor kind of deserved a little bit punch in the mouth, and this was back in a time when you could do that and there weren't cops called. You know what I mean? Like men could be men, kind of thing. It wasn't unheard of for men to get into a scrap and everybody.
It's hard to believe how much of a man Harlan is in a lot of instances that he says he is. Though.
No, and that's the thing. He talks about it so much, he brags that it's clear it's made up. Because real men don't have to do that. Real men don't have to tell you.
Well, it's because he's 5'2", Jenova.
They are. What's that?
It's because he's 5'2". He has to tell you.
It's because he's 5'2". He clearly has a Napoleon complex. Fun fact, Napoleon was not actually that short.
No, he was, what is he, like 6?
He was taller than the King of England.
Yeah.
Who put out the rumors that he was short.
Of course.
I think he was actually kind of tall for that time
period.
I think he was 5'8" or 5'6" or something.
Yeah, 5'8" or 5'6", which is tall he was, for that period.
Yeah, humans just keep getting bigger.
Yeah.
But I agree with his passion for writing and pushing back against certain things. Politically, he's a fucking idiot.
Mm-hmm. He is.
And I think he was a big gun advocate. Like, he believed in gun rights, I believe.
I think he did or may not have. It was that one thing, though. He said 5'7" Napoleon was. He's my height.
No, Napoleon was 5'7".
Yeah. Hitler was 5'9".
Who was 5'9"?
Adolf Hitler.
5'2". I think.
Joan of Arc was 5'2".
Isn't Robert De Niro like 5'3" or something?
I think
like,
he is.
Robert De Niro is a
he's
short
really
little,
small.
he's a tiny little boy. So.
Louis the 14th of France was also 5'5".
Yes.
The French are pretty short people.
Yes, and we have gotten bigger. It's all the milk.
Milk.
So, but we are going on to a story that he wrote. We brought up earlier. It's a Star Trek script that he wrote. That he actually had a problem that they changed a lot of things, and that's the thing. Harlan doesn't like when you change his stories.
He does not like Gene Roddenberry. They were friends at one point, but then he got sick of Gene's shit.
Yeah, he doesn't like his optimism.
No.
Shit like that, the future is shit kind of thing.
Yeah.
But if Harlan was alive today, he probably would have written something for Black Mirror, shit like that.
He was alive to 2018, so it's surprising he didn't.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe because I don't know, Harlan stopped writing, and he went on tour, he does lectures and shit.
He did till he died.
Yeah, and there are a lot of like video footage of him doing his lectures where he's just yelling at audience members and telling them to get out and shit like that, his crazy fucking ways. But I admire the man's passion for what he does.
Yes.
And I agree with sticking it to Hollywood and plagiarism and shit like that. So, But we are going on to Star Trek: The City on the Edge of Forever. Is that what it's called?
Yes, The City on the Edge of Forever.
Okay, which is considered the best, most quintessential.
It actually won awards too, if I remember correctly, as well.
Very true, very true. And after that video, we will watch a video on the same show where he is sitting down with some of the Star Trek crew.
Yes, correct.
He's there with Chekhov, I believe.
He's Chekhov.
And he's there with one of the producers. It might be Gene Roddenberry.
That would be funny if it is.
And he's there with some guy who put together like the first the first Star Trek convention.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a few interesting things here. But I hope you guys are enjoying Harlan Ellison so far. This is what we meant by you have to see Harlan in action to get the gist of this man that we're talking about.
Yeah.
So, Eddie, if you want to go to the next video, or if you
I'm going to right now. Yep, I'm doing it right now.
Let's just hope we don't get showing for this.
We won't, I don't think. This is a YouTuber who
Strange
made this video.
new worlds, new life, new civilizations. Creator Gene Roddenberry's 1966 television series Star Trek, and the wealth of shows, films, and much more that have sprung from it draw from an endless well of science fiction concepts that propel a humanist vision. As the crew of the Starship Enterprise and more galactic explorers encounter sci-fi scenarios that cause them to answer moral, philosophical, societal, and ethical questions, which reflect the real world, cheesy. Star Trek's speculative fiction inspires viewers to be better than they are, and to grapple with the complex issues around them. While these elements and their applications would continue to evolve over the decades, they are all vibrantly present in the three seasons of Star Trek: The Original Series.
I've never watched anything Star
Here,
Trek.
Captain James T. Kirk, Commander Spock, Dr. Leonard McCoy, and the rest of the iconic cast of characters explore the galaxy on a 5-year mission as part of Starfleet, with numerous adventures that would help to define what Star Trek was throughout its many following iterations. However, the crown jewel among these 79 episodes may be one that is highly unconventional on its surface, yet contains the elements that are intrinsic to what makes Star Trek a powerful, lasting science fiction vision. It's writer Harlan Ellison's The City on the Edge of Forever, the 28th episode of TOS's first season, and one whose difficult production and haunting narrative would illustrate what the franchise's pinnacle could be, and inspire countless stories in its wake. Despite being an episode that largely takes place away from space exploration and many of the familiar elements of the franchise, The City on the Edge of Forever is quintessential Star Trek. Its high-concept central conceit, use of character to provide humanist weight to sci-fi exploration, and thematic resonance that would tie into the core of the franchise make this a story that encapsulates the one-of-a-kind strengths which helped Star Trek remain relevant and unforgettable for more than half a century. And when combining the often cynical prophecy of Ellison with the inspirational humanist vision of Roddenberry, the result would be a tragedy that lingers in the minds of viewers all these years later. The episode sees Kirk and Spock chase Dr. McCoy to the surface of an unknown planet after the medical officer accidentally injects himself with a drug that causes paranoid delusions.
Sounds like
On
Harlan
the surface
Ellison,
of the planet, the crew discovers a sentient formation known as the Guardian of Forever, which can transport people to any place and time. While studying the occurrence, the delusional McCoy leaps through it and is transported back in time. Kirk and Spock quickly discover that whatever McCoy did in the past has had major repercussions, including causing the Enterprise to no longer exist.
But I thought red shirts were supposed to die.
They do, most of them, when they're not important characters. When you're an important character, you have plot armor.
To correct the time stream,
I told you this.
Spock
I'd love
and
to see
Kirk
a
travel back to stop McCoy's
Starship
unknown
Troopers
actions, putting the plot of the city on the edge of forever into action.
The worst shooters.
It's admittedly a convoluted setup for a
Yep.
fairly simple premise, undoing time travel mistakes no matter the cost.
Yep.
Putting McCoy into a place of rash action and establishing the stakes and rules of the episode are somewhat unwieldy, although they are in service of exploring grander ideas. However, the rocky road toward the episode's completion can illuminate why its opening structure is as tortuous as it is. Despite being the second to last episode of the first season to air, City began development before the first episode of Star Trek even premiered.
Yep.
Series creator Roddenberry had hired Ellison as one of the first writers for Star Trek, hoping to add his talents to the in-development show after Ellison had been nominated by the Writers Guild of America for his Outer Limits script for Demon with a Glass Hand.
Yep.
Given free rein to develop his own episode idea via 10-page outline, Ellison crafted the story of the city on the edge of forever with many notable differences from what eventually aired. At the time, Star Trek was without a series Bible, which would dictate the overall rules for the show regarding characters, story, world, and tone.
Struck says,
As such,
damn it, Jim, I'm
Starfleet was a more
delusional, not a
traditional
doctor.
military unit. The man who traveled to the past was a corrupt lieutenant taken to the planet for
Thanos.
execution. The planet home to an ancient ruined city with massive aliens. And the Enterprise now host to a band of renegades after time alterations.
Yep.
Although the exact details of what was in this original outline differ depending on who's telling the story. However, the script would mutate over time and remain long in development during the course of the first season. Ellison, whose combative personality and controversies are just as well recognized as his highly influential contributions to science fiction, had numerous problems with Roddenberry and the rest of the staff behind the scenes at Star Trek. After numerous script rewrites by Ellison, who was also working on various other commitments that stalled its completion, Roddenberry was still dissatisfied. Years of discussion regarding the creation of City have revealed that Roddenberry, story editor Steve Karabatzos, story editor D.C. Fontana, and producer Gene L. Kuhn all took part in rewrites to some degree. However, Ellison's major story threads, characters, and themes remained throughout. When asked about his spark of inspiration for the episode, Ellison remarked years later, "It was an image of two cities, which is what it says in the script. The city on the edge of forever is the city on this planet. It was not a big donut in my script. It was a city. That was a city that was on the edge of time, and it was where all the winds of time met. When you go through to the other side, here is this other city, which is also on the edge of forever, which is New York City during the Depression. It's the mirror image of each other. In that time, all I was concerned about was telling a love story, which I made the point that there are some loves that are so great that you would sacrifice your ship, your crew, your friends, your mother, all of time, everything in defense of this great love. That's what the story was all about.
That's the Jew from
After
the
traveling through the time gate, Kirk and Spock arrive in New York City in the year 1930 before McCoy's time-disrupting arrival, where they blend in as they wait to prevent catastrophe.
Spock blending in.
The pair meet Edith Keeler, played by Joan Collins, a kind-hearted woman running the 21st Street mission, and Kirk soon falls in love with her, while Spock analyzes his tricoder's images to determine the cause of the time alteration.
Here we go.
Of course, Ellison's story is a tragedy, and Spock eventually determines that Keeler must die for time to remain on course. Should she live due to McCoy saving her life from an accident? Her anti-war efforts will keep the United States out of World War II for too long and lead to Nazi Germany conquering the world.
Okay, I just gotta pause real quick. Nazi Germany conquering the entire world. No. That would never happen, even if the timeline was altered, because Nazi Germany would only be able to conquer Europe. They'd fail at Africa, they would fail at fucking Russia. They wouldn't win. What is this bullshit?
I have no clue.
I know. It's just because people think that the Nazis had this, like, big presence. I mean, Europe, it's Europe. That's all it would have been. Europe. Who cares? It's Europe.
It's, yes, and they created their own problem.
Yeah.
But it's anti-pacifism.
Mm-hmm.
Like, go in there and punch a Nazi. Some bullshit like that. But I do enjoy that it's anti-pacifism.
I understand that too,
because you always see like the reverse of that, anti-war now.
Yeah.
You know, no, we've got to stop a war. In this episode, it's like push the war, push it, so we can conquer these guys sooner.
Show that values peace over war. This is an episode of Star Trek where pacifism is shown to have disastrous consequences. And like so many time travel stories, the course of human history is balanced on the smallest of moments. In weighing one's own personal well-being against the greater good, the city on the edge of forever plays into an idea that would define many future Star Trek installments.
Don't worry, they're making diversity chocolates now, Cadbury.
I saw that.
So I guess you don't get Cadbury eggs ever again.
For all its epic ideas and bombastic science fiction, Star Trek is propelled by individuals who must make difficult decisions in the midst of ethical and societal dilemmas. But given that the crew of the Starship Enterprise faces new species, strange worlds, and every sort of sci-fi concept as they travel around the galaxy, modern real-world dilemmas can be heightened to a degree unreachable in a more grounded setting.
I'm in love with Edith Keeler.
Thank you, Jim.
Jim, Edith Keeler must die.
Jim?
Yeah.
And that's
James
the beauty of science fiction, putting a slightly outlandish spin on a real-life issue, so that writers can explore the concept to the furthest degree possible, and allow viewers to explore different viewpoints they may typically be automatically opposed to hearing in everyday life. Sure, there's plenty of action, romance, and drama in Star Trek the original series and the many iterations that follow, but Star Trek is most interested in the decisions that lead up to a course of action and the consequences of such decisions, rather than just the action itself. This
Jenova,
is right at the heart of Ellison's story. While the very fabric of time and history of the Earth is at stake, the city on the edge of forever is by and large focused on Kirk and Keeler's relationship, leading to the episode's tragic decision. Much of its second act is devoted to Kirk and Keeler growing closer through their shared worldviews, as Spock works to determine the fulcrum on which time has changed. But what adds to the tragedy is not simply allowing the death of a loved one, but in the loss of a kindred, futurist spirit. Despite being alive in 1930, Keeler has a heart and mind that belong in Star Trek's future.
Man is going to be able to harness incredible energies, maybe even the atom.
That's right, man.
Energies that could ultimately hurl us to other worlds in some sort of spaceship.
It's that mentality that leads to Kirk falling in love with her, but is also the source of her character's tragic contradictions. Edith Keeler must not be alive to see such a future, for her continued life will be what prevents such a world from coming to be. The city on the edge of forever was not the first Star Trek episode to center on time travel, despite its placement in the first ever season of the franchise. The Naked Time and Tomorrow is Yesterday had already seen the Enterprise travel to the past, and it wouldn't be the last either, with time travel occurring in multiple episodes of every television series and a large number of the franchise's films. But it's Ellison's unique fingerprints and the story's tight focus on the personal toll of sacrifice for the greater good that sets City apart, and also make it a major influence on the many time travel stories that came later. As a writer, Ellison's speculative fiction is largely pessimistic, driving toward ideas of doom and desolation when it comes to the current and future state of humanity. But Star Trek is a hopeful rumination on the future, with mankind's collaboration and world peace making space exploration possible. A lack of conflict between the crew of the Starship Enterprise was a mandate by Roddenberry, and would largely inform the original series, The Next Generation, and their related movies. This collision between Ellison's darker overtone largely informed the original series, The Next...
So this is what... I can't pause it. I can see it. So here's Gene Roddenberry saying this. Star Trek was attempt to say that humanity will reach maturity and wisdom on the day that it begins not to just tolerate, but special delight in the difference in our ideologies. Yeah, okay, that's never happening.
Well, isn't that the thing about Star Wars? Is that like all the violence has been like bred out of us? Like
Star Trek.
Star Trek. Star Trek. Isn't that the thing with about the human race? Is that like they're not violent anymore?
I guess.
Or like there isn't any more violence?
There's no we tolerate people that are different. That's never gonna happen. That's fiction.
Violence is is survival.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Without violence, like, you can't survive. You have to be violent in order to survive.
Yeah, so you
can only run for so long. Eventually you have to fight.
Yep.
And I mean, I haven't seen the show, like, I haven't like sat down and watched an episode, but I've seen clips of the show where clearly violence sometimes has to be used.
Yes.
So Gene Roddenberry is kind of what do they call him? Like he's an optimist or an
optimist, yes.
An idealist.
An idealist as well, too.
Yeah.
A utopianist.
The stars. Yeah.
A utopia is never going to exist.
People who don't understand the human race, but they, this is why it's science fiction. Fiction is the key word.
Yeah. All right, I'll continue.
Next Generation and their related movies.
Out of them,
this collision between Ellison's darker overtones and Roddenberry's message of hope were clearly the cause of the numerous rewrites of City, but is also a major reason behind its resonance with fans. With Kirk realizing that he is in love with Edith, just as Spock finally determines that it is her death that will restore time, personal devotion and the greater good collide within the heart of Captain Kirk.
Yep.
Save her.
I have that
hat. Your heart tells you to do.
Are you Spock?
And millions will die who did not die before.
No way.
Throw a newly arrived and slowly recovering Bones into this explosive mix,
recovers after a while,
our heroes are left with an impending, horrifying decision. But just as Kirk and Spock reunite with McCoy, Edith's fate arrives. Fittingly, it's Kirk who must stop Bones from saving her, as it is he alone who has both the knowledge and emotional connection to make his decision possible. It's a collision of every emotion and sci-fi concept in a sudden, heartbreaking moment of inevitable tragedy.
Got that, Bones.
Taking place far away from the series' typical deep space setting, the loss and turmoil of the city on the edge of forever seem far more immediate and relatable, even when compared to Star Trek's typical focus on characters over science fiction concepts. By its end, history has been corrected and the universe has been restored. But at what cost? The toll of Edith's death on Kirk is clear, as demonstrated by his utterance of,
"Let's get the hell out of here."
One of the first ever occurrences of hell being used as a swear on television.
Yes, he did.
And it's on this downbeat note that the episode ends.
Yep.
Leaving viewers with a tinge of darkness that possibly outweighs the salvation.
Written by Harlan Ellison.
After all, the time stream destruction and its many consequences are largely discussed rather than seen.
Earth's not there. At least not the Earth we know.
Nazi Earth.
Yet Edith and Kirk's relationship is played out in front of the cameras. The heaviness of all of history being rewritten for the worse is easy to understand without needing to be shown. It's also much easier on the budget. The stakes are obvious. But it's the relationship, sacrifice, and loss that need to be illustrated in order to give the narrative its power, which is the focus of City by and large. As such, the moral obligations and victory of the Enterprise crew lean darker than usual for a TOS episode. It's this lingering, unexpected weight in a show that was known to explore serious issues, but with a consistent positivity that allowed the City on the Edge of Forever to remain in the minds of fans for generations, and echo throughout all of Star Trek as a whole. Ellison, who would go on to create numerous hallmark pieces of science fiction over the course of his 84 years of life, would remain forever linked to a franchise he had little to do with, and would largely remain contentious toward. Unsurprisingly, he saw the changes to his script as the worst sort of disrespect.
Here we go.
The script does not end the way the episode does. Kirk goes for her to save her. At the final moment, by his actions, he says, "F it. I don't care what happens to the ship, the future, and everything else. I can't let her die. I love her." And he starts for her. Spock, who is cold and logical, grabs him and holds him back, and she's hit by the truck. The TV ending, where he closes his eyes and lets her get hit by the truck, is absolutely bullshit. It destroys the core of what I tried to do. Having Kirk still attempt to save Edith despite the consequences is certainly a bold and emotional choice by Ellison, but it's not surprising that Roddenberry would want Kirk to make the hard decision. By and large, Kirk is committed to the greater good throughout Star Trek.
That's true.
And to have him try and save her would go against his typical characterization and Roddenberry's ideas as a whole. But Ellison, who threatened to be credited under his protest pseudonym of Cordwainer Bird, would also go on to win numerous awards for the episode. In its time, the city on the edge of forever would be met with massive critical acclaim, and its reputation would only rise over the years.
Look at all the awards.
With Ellison publishing his original script for the episode, and a detailed account of the events that surrounded it, further highlighting the production problems that led to its one-of-a-kind nature. But the power of the story as it first aired on April 6, 1967, remains. It's a testament to the strength of the story's unshakable, haunting narrative, the utterly unique voice of Ellison, and the forever fertile philosophical ground of Star Trek, that a single episode of television would quickly become a monument in the landscape of science fiction.
I could have saved her. Do you know what you just did?
He knows, Bones.
Shut up, McCoy.
He knows, Doctor. He knows.
Today, Harlan Ellison's The City on the Edge of Forever is a hallmark of the truly resonant, humanist vision of Star Trek.
There's something on the wing. Something.
On the wing.
Thing.
Well, I was gonna say something too. Gray-haired Snake messaged me saying, ironically, the third episode from The World is Hollow and I Have No Touched Sky deals. Apparently, it's from Ellison Star Lost. Deals with the idea of a multi-generational starship that features heavily in Ellison Star Lost, among other popular titles that explore the theme. So it's basically, For the World is Hollow and I Have No Sky. It deals with the theme of multi-generational spaceships. So it's like multiple generations of people on a spaceship.
Okay, so it's similar to this episode.
Yes.
Okay, so is Harlan, did he sue himself?
No, of course not.
When they came out, I'm going to make money on this, and I'm going to sue myself for even more money.
I'm going to sue me for me.
I think Creedence Clearwater did that. The guy from Creedence Clearwater sued himself so he could get the rights to a song he wrote.
That's retarded.
I have no idea. I may be thinking a little over that. So.
All right. Now let's go to the interview, unless you want to pause real quick.
Oh, no, yeah, go ahead. Go straight to the interview.
Yeah, as soon as we skip this video. There we go. Here we go.
It's... these great VHS copies.
Mm-hmm. Any day VHS copy.
You know, ever since we did our episode on drive-ins and VHS stores, I've been seeing more and more people talk about them.
Episodes in the history of Star
Like
Trek
Ethan Van Sciver was talking about opening a drive-in.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, he said they were all dead, but like the comments is just full of people going, "There's 25 of them in Ohio."
Fiction writing with Harlan and Gene Roddenberry.
That guy.
Oh, that's Gene Roddenberry. It is Gene Roddenberry.
A little over a year ago. And Harlan wrote what many people consider to be one of the finest episodes of Star Trek. To this audience, Mr. Ellison was on our all-night program. We did a show on science fiction writing with Harlan and Gene Roddenberry.
Oh, we did a show.
And others, including
so
Ray Bradbury.
That's the guy who started the Star Trek
Harlan wrote what many
conventions.
people consider to be one of the finest episodes of Star Trek, a program called City
so
on
him
the Edge
and
of
Gene were on a show,
Hugo,
though.
which is the science fiction.
And with Ray Bradbury as well.
Oh, my God, look at him.
Presentation of that
what is this outfit, Harlan?
Joining us also,
I have no idea. Look at that
collar.
collar.
Star Trek conventions around the country ever since the Star Trek phenomenon resurfaced.
Shaggy from Scooby-Doo.
Harlan, how are you, my friend?
Oh, okay, Rock, thank you. John Fogerty was the lead singer of CCR. He was sued after he quit CCR for sounding too much like CCR.
I know all these
Okay,
fellows,
thanks, Rock.
and they're truthful people, but I'm afraid I was developing
Rock fact
diabetes
check.
from all the sweetness
It's on
of
your
life.
bingo
That's-
card.
That's all.
Well, we can be prepared for a little sour then, eh?
Well, it wasn't all sweetness and light, but backstage things happen. There are arguments, are there not? Huh?
There were those, yes. I didn't work for the show after I did my one segment.
Wait, oh, Gene's right next to him.
I felt that,
isn't it?
they
Does
had
that check
mucked
out?
up badly.
And,
no, I think that's Gene.
It took,
maybe.
I think, 6 or 7 years before Gene Roddenberry and I even spoke to each other again after the show.
Or whatever it is. I need it.
The thing that always troubled me about the series was that there was always the feeling that they were presenting great moral messages.
Is everyone fucking
and,
smoking?
To me, they were always very lightweight.
It was his brother
Anytime,
that sued him too.
You tried to
Rock.
really deal with
everybody's always
the
smoking.
human heart in conflict with
Back
itself.
when you could smoke.
Either the network or the production, people said no, our characters wouldn't
Let's
act
never
that
go
way.
back to 70s fashion.
It's amazing how they know how characters would act.
It'll
They
come
know
back
how
eventually,
hair should look,
Strug.
how ties should be tied, how teeth should be fixed. They know all those things in the offices. It's amazing.
The thing that really amazes me
I swear there are
is
no
what you
photos
call
of
the
my
Star Trek
80s
phenomenon.
feathered hair, says
I
Greg.
did a convention here in town just a week or so ago, and 30,000 people were there. Riots. Somebody had
That's a hardcore part he's got in his hair.
Did you know about that?
Yes, I walked out on stage shortly after that happened.
Al, what goes on at these things? What do you do? Do you show the films or?
Certainly, that's just part of it. The actors, these fellows all here, Harlan, come out and speak.
Harlan's not an actor,
whatever
dude.
it is. There are several other aspects to the convention. There's a large
Harlan just fucking
all sorts of things are sold.
Just a puff of smoke like he's John Carpenter.
Yeah, what are these? Tell what these are. I don't know.
Hairballs.
Oh, the tribbles.
They're very similar, very akin to the pet rocks that are floating around now. There's a big.
Oh my God, he's got a
fad.
massive
but
one.
tribbles were
He
the
does, yep.
Creation of one episode of Star Trek.
And David Gerald, who created it.
David Gerald, obviously. The man who
There's Harlan, making sure that guy gets his credit.
There are several tribbles in existence that have been known to give birth
That's
to
Chekhov.
Yeah, there's Chekhov. He also plays the gang leader in Memo from Purgatory.
Thank you. We didn't understand that.
Now, when you fellas come out at the convention, do you make a talk or do you have set routines? Like, what do you do?
Come out, we make a talk, and then
Bones is here too. Okay.
Bones.
That seems
wearing
to be,
denim.
Everybody's
in a turtleneck. Is that a turtle?
Yeah, it's a turtleneck.
They want to communicate and ask you questions about yourself, about the show, experiences on show.
I'm pretty sure he
that
died
sort
from
of thing.
small
What do you think would
intestine
happen if it came
cancer.
back on prime time?
Oh, that's
I think we
true,
do very
Gray.
nicely indeed.
Gray says, Gene, look up some old film of
What is
William
it, Space
Buckley Jr. show
1999?
if you want to
It's
see a
syndication.
smoke
They're going
show.
for a second year now.
And it's
That's
a lot,
true.
so
There's
it's,
just nothing
doing
but
well
smoke. I used to
Clearly,
love
the
watching
public is ready
old
for
clips
science
of
fiction.
William
They
F.
want something
Buckley.
good. Well, I'm sorry. What am I going to do? Am I going to lie to you? You bring me on. You know I'll tell you the truth.
I know you'll tell me the truth, but is it highly possible, in the truth as you perceive it, sir, that television is simply not equipped to deal with
Bones
what you
looking
want
like
to
the
put on
Marlboro
on a
Man.
19-inch
It's a
diagonal
struggle.
tube?
No, the truth of the matter is that television is the best medium that has ever been devised, including the print medium, for dealing with fantasy. The problem lies
But in the
fact
interview
that,
before this, he said all the shows on television were dribble.
He did, yes. I guess he changed his mind because someone paid him some gold.
Whatever they are.
Booth announcers,
Massage parlor guys. Who the hell knows what they do for a living?
You give me
They're not,
shekels, Coy. I'll say whatever you want.
What you used to do, WIOX-TV, Lansing.
Right.
Yeah, great, couldn't do it. Now I'm in here planning your life.
I don't know how happy Gene Roddenberry is here to sit next to Harlan. I mean, I think they're friends, but I don't think he really likes Harlan all that
cannot
much.
get it through their heads.
Well, like we said, this is at a time where people can disagree and not hate each other. They can, it's okay to go back and forth, have a debate. Nobody gets their panties in a fucking twist. Nobody says, "Oh, I'm not your friend anymore,are kind of thing.
Oh, yeah, the instant you explain it, yeah, right. It's like telling him the plot of Moby Dick. Well, it's a nut chasing a big fish, right? Listen, I'm about to talk myself out of a job.
I'm going to talk myself out of a job. That won't be too hard.
That's all right. You'll just sue yourself back into
called
one.
in on this project. Last word, there was no script. They got a director, they got a start date, no script. I think they're going to stand there and whistle. Who knows? Roddenberry called me in. He says, he was really desperate to call me in. And he said,
He's right next to you.
You said you're about to blow a job, huh? Right?
Oh, look, no, Gene knows what I'm going to say.
Is that,
Gene's cool. We came in,
is that him?
An idea.
I think it is.
Paramount keeps saying to them, no matter what plot they offer, it's not big enough. It's not big enough, right?
That's what he was saying.
Right, except in one of them we destroyed the universe. We thought that was big enough. No, it wasn't big enough. So,
it's like on the news, world ends, details
if you're going to destroy a universe, make it the Kelvin universe.
Please.
So, anyhow,
Just men smoking and laughing.
He's the liaison. He's the interface between the great powers on the front.
You know why I held you till after 1:30? You know, a few people go to bed, like Jim Aubrey might be gone. I don't want you to lose it all when you're on here.
Listen, I must have a suicide complex. I wouldn't be in Hollywood to begin with. You get a story. It's a super-duper story. Gene and I work it out, and it's all solid. So in comes this tum-tum from the head office, and he's gonna listen to it. We explain the whole thing to him.
Jewish
It's
studio
complex, it's fascinating. It goes back to the dawn of time and a parallel species that grew up with humankind and so on and so on, and the whole thing. When you get all done, he sits there and goes, He says, well, you know, I was reading Von Daniken, and, you know, the Mayan calendar is the same as our calendar. Why don't you put in some Mayans? We said, Mayans? He says, yeah, why don't you put in the Mayans? That's terrific. And Gene and I kind of look at each other like, we tried to explain to him there were no Mayans at the dawn of time. He didn't understand that. So he said, well, I'll tell it to Stummy, whatever his name was up in the tower. And that was
Dummy, Dum.
Yeah, and they never do it.
He does not like them.
No. Listen, we're going to have to fire you. Oh, yeah? When am I through? Well, we'll get back to you.
It's like the Red Queen's race. You got to run as fast as you can to stay in the same place.
What was your first convention like? Was it a smash?
Certainly.
The very first one?
Yes, surprisingly so. We anticipated probably 400 or 500 people would show up. Almost 3,000 showed up. Statler Hilton Hotel in 71.
That's a mass underestimate.
And how many of these do you run a year?
I imagine it probably looked like TanaCon.
But the last few months I've put on
people dying of dehydration
one in
and
August in
sunstroke
Philadelphia, one
because you
in-
don't have anything
over
prepared.
January 1st weekend in Washington, D.C., where incidentally I had a transporter mechanism brought in. It's the first time it's ever been shown at a Star Trek convention. It worked very similar to the transporter effect shown on television. It came out of Chicago Creative Presentations. It's,
Chicago.
It makes people appear.
It's magic.
Yeah.
Imagine the size of the ball pins. That's right.
On
Oh, I
stage.
see.
Fucking Chekhov is not
People
saying
don't
anything.
disintegrate and go across the room and...
He'll say something later. He'll challenge Harlan.
And everything else there.
It's either him who's going to challenge Harlan or it's Bones who's going to fucking
Put a couple
challenge
of
him.
network heads in that thing. Make it
I'm pretty sure that's Gene Roddenberry sitting next to Harlan.
Whoever that is sitting next to Harlan, you can see from his body language, like he's facing away. Now, of course, he's facing towards the host, but he's sort of got his back to Harlan.
Or sometimes you say to yourself, I just don't want to
It's
go
one
to
of
the
those body language type things.
It's getting that way.
You sort of like try and face away from people you don't like and face toward people you do
I
like.
haven't gone to too many of them, and I'm getting a little tired of it.
Of course, you.
With the guy sitting right there, like, we're tired of your conventions.
Tired of it already.
We'll be right back.
You know, that's how it is today. I mean, look at like Comic-Con and D23.
What's
and
wrong
what's
with
the
talking
game
as
one?
like cuz?
What's the game one? E3?
Yeah.
Like, people are just tired of conventions. It's just bullshit now.
This is a quote from a
Incidentally, is the movie script, you have no script, you said. That's not progressed one iota
As far as I know, as of yesterday afternoon, there was no script. Gene was, I understand, working with other writers. Who they may be, God only knows. Whether there'll be a script or not, I don't know.
But
what
you're
movie?
off the movie.
As far as they haven't gotten back to me.
But Tom, got a note from Gene Roddenberry, which I think is interesting. He said, we have a starting date, July 15th, but we don't have a script. But he said, what the hell? He said, there are a lot of people who have scripts that don't have a starting date.
Oh, God.
Did he mention a year?
No, he didn't mention a year. Well, we'll get back to you.
Okay. Quote.
Okay, this is from a book
Bones
review
has like all this,
of a paperback
all
that
these
came out that was
rings
marketed
on his
as, if you
hand.
like Star
He
Trek,
does,
you'll
yeah.
love this book, okay? And the critic, John Kurlovich, said, the ever-spreading influence of that, he says, still there remains the fascinating question of why the author of this book didn't latch on to a better model for a novel than Star Trek. The ever-spreading influence of that show is now an undeniable fact. A good deal has been said and written about this phenomenon, but many seem to agree that the program's advocates, whatever else they are appallingly indiscriminate. What can one make of a mentality that not only condones mediocrity, but believes it to be something good, something decidedly worth emulating? Now that is the most dead-on quote I've ever heard about the Star Trek phenomenon. As good as the show may have been, at best, all it is really is a television show. There are no great conventions of 30,000 people going to discuss Proust's Remembrance of Things Past. There are not people dashing in to pay homage to Ralph Nader, the Ralph Nader convention. This was a, plain and simple, is a kind of hero worship that is on the same plane with the Beatles, on the same plane with, Elvis Presley or Jacqueline Suzanne books. It's better for TV, but what we're talking about again is that great swamp of television
Swamp?
drama, which at best never
Drain the
touches,
swamp.
even the middle range of what is done in other medium.
Did Harlan grow his hair out?
Okay, but
Probably.
I think you need. I think you
It
need
looks like he's
frame
got a
of
bit of a
reference.
mullet back
now,
there.
What do you could?
Here's
you cannot translate or cannot transcribe the quality of a novel and compare that to the quality of a television show.
Why not?
Because they're apples and oranges. That's why. You can't. We know that from our personal experience. I'm doing that science fiction seminar. I took some of the finest novelists, fantasy novelists, and had professional actors read from them, and it was dull because it doesn't translate. It's not theater. It's not necessarily theater.
Well, but that wasn't drama. That was a straight reading. What we're talking about is the difference between the best of the Star Trek episodes and any one segment of, say, Rich Man, Poor Man, which is running on another network.
Man, now that
And
I see
clearly
the back of his, like the hair in the back, I can't unsee it.
And translate it to a television medium so that you don't insult the viewers.
Yes, but now here's something.
Are they
that's
all
quite
high,
interesting.
says
You
Jenny?
mentioned Rich Man,
Probably,
Poor Man, which is running on ABC.
I would imagine at least
Now,
one person on
Irwin
this
Shaw's
stage
book
is
was
full
a
of
wonderful
cocaine
book to
or
read.
has smoked a
I
joint.
thought. I enjoyed
I
the
imagine
book, all right?
Harlan smoked
I
some
read an
before. He
account
was
of that
laughing a
show
lot.
in one of the news magazines this week where they say that it's poorly written, poorly presented, and that it really isn't worth all the trouble of watching.
I heard the same thing.
Yeah, Newsweek or Time had a little one of their little quick shots.
All I can say is I watched it and I was fascinated.
I didn't read the book. I watched it. I thought, great.
Yeah,
I thought it was great.
But there's always somebody.
Yeah, that's
who will
Gene
take what's on
Roddenberry sitting
television,
next
and
to
we're all
him.
guilty of
I
it.
know
They're
that
like
is
this
now.
guy
Just
who
looking
wrote this
at
here,
him.
and what you're saying tonight is going to say, well,
Because that is
it's no
Gene
good. Yet
Roddenberry,
here's
the way his
something that you
posture
think
and
is of
everything
value,
else.
but I can give
Yeah.
you 4 opinions where they say.
I'm just
well,
surprised
it's
he's not
no
saying
he didn't say it's
anything.
bad. What he said is it's mediocre. And that, I think, is the crime. Bad, I can understand. I mean, I can even understand someone making a motion picture where they try to do something. I mean,
Look at the
God knows
denim
how many of
outfit
those
he's
where they
wearing.
strive to do something and they fail
Harlan's
dismally,
outfit
but they
is just
tried.
over the
The
top.
best that anything tries to do on Star Trek or anything else on television is to hit that median, which is where they failed because they tried to be a little bit better. They didn't
Look
get
at
the
how-
Bible Belt. Instead of
Look at Gene next
conscientiously
to him.
educating a television audience throughout the nation to want better things, they give them one more cop show. Jigsaw John went on the other night. There's another cop show. The Cop and the Kid, that'll last 15 minutes, you know.
What you're doing when you talk about the cop shows is that you're praising Star Trek, really, because Star Trek was much more than any cop show you ever want to see.
No, it was a cop show.
Oh,
Star Trek was a cop show too. Sure, it was spacemen.
Oh, come on.
Didn't you go through the galaxy and straighten things out?
There were a few things. He
gotcha.
The sum total, you can't knock it that way.
Then you go through the galaxy and straighten
I
things
think
out.
that every episode of Star Trek did something that they preached in every episode they didn't do, and that was stress violence. I think that there was violence in every episode of Star Trek, as much as they preached that there wasn't.
Shut up, you run the conventions.
That
Nobody cares.
overcomes violent aspect.
Look
There
at
was
this guy. He's a
violence in every
fucking
episode.
hippie. His hair's almost as long as Harlan's.
It was some android or some.
Somebody put a bowl on all their heads. Just cut around
Right,
it.
but I think that, isn't that fascinating? Isn't that fascinating? Anytime they kill
Harlan
someone
looks
off,
like
there's
the
always a member of
like a
third
typical
world
70s
race,
stereotype.
right?
Very
Go ahead,
true,
shoot him,
Jenny.
God, he's green. What does it matter?
They're all just laughing.
He's green. What does it matter? Shoot him down.
Vulcan nerve pinched him.
Where is that thing?
It's
that
only
you,
when he
had
wears
out
a
here,
star
that
is
gun?
a
There
problem
you
for
are. No,
Harlan.
you demonstrate what it does. 'Cause I don't know.
Walter Koenig cucked himself
right,
playing
that's right.
the alien Oro on Starlost, so he needs to shut the fuck up. So that's great.
Now, let me see here. We have.
Oh, no.
That's stun. Can you see that?
Oh,
Stun
stunning.
force?
Now twist the dial. Right.
That sounds like a tribble. I don't know what.
Now, these are for sale at the conventions, huh?
Thank
Well,
you,
this is a
Cindy.
prototype, I believe, that was
Replicators.
made by the people at the
Convention, too.
Federation Trading Post, which is a store devoted entirely to Star Trek.
See,
stuff.
now somebody would
One
take
east and one
that,
west.
they would spray paint it a different color or something, and then it would be like a shot that you put in somebody's arm.
No, you know what I hate? You know what I hate? Honest to God, I hate
reverence for things. That
What do
don't
you
deserve
hate,
them. I know you hate that.
Yeah, but I also hate the
Tell
fact
us
that
what
it's
you
the
hate.
exploitation of the gullible. I mean, you see the things that these kids buy when they go to these conventions. They spend hundreds of thousands of dollars because it's
I
Star
hate
Trek
people
affiliated.
spending money.
You know, I mean, if they want to
The
watch the show, Dynamite,
exploitation
let them
of
watch.
the
Better that than they should be
gullible.
out in the street, you know, stealing hubcaps. But they're being really exploited. $12 a day To go and listen to, you know, James Doohan explain the ethical structure of the universe.
Oh, you wish it was $12 a day today.
Yet you went to one.
I went for money.
I went for money.
Of course he did.
Sum of money, but I don't do a Star Trek gig. I get up and I read my stories. Anybody wants to come and listen to me read my stories? Dynamite. But I do the same thing I would do anyplace else.
Dynamite. They all get up and leave, right?
Well, that's true.
Brings the audience to their feet.
Everyone's bashing this.
I have a limited audience, but they're an intelligent one.
A limited one.
Yeah, what do we got left? 45 show? Okay, 30 seconds.
Okay. I think you've got to consider Star Trek not as the ultimate in terms of quality television or science fiction on television, but as a departure point. I think it's, without question, the best episodic science fiction that has ever been on television. That doesn't mean that it's the best television that ever was. But certainly, if you consider it as a
I mean, the Outer Limits exist too.
Jumping off place, then I think you have a very positive attitude
episodic,
about what's going to happen with
not really
like connecting.
I guess he does, and it was technically.
8 years ago, and nothing's happened since.
Ooh! Coming back, baby.
We had another piece of film to show, and I never got it on because we were having such a wonderful time listening to Harlan Ellison tell us that it was all. Sometime you're coming on here, and we're going to tell the stories you've been through in the television industry, and we're going to name the names.
You're on.
Okay, so are you.
I wish I could find that interview, but I couldn't find it.
I hope all of you will stay tuned.
Yeah, it's not.
Okay, thanks, Harlan.
Okay, pause this before we started. I want to talk about something.
Yeah, this is going to be an... Oh, it's not. I thought it was longer. Go right ahead.
Cindy says, oh my fucking God, if they buy his books, then it's all good. Well, he tells a story in one of the interviews. I don't think we're watching it today, but he tells a story about how he's signing autographs somewhere. And he goes, you always get these schmucks that walk up to you. Oh, I don't read your book, but my daughter does, or whatever. And he's talking about this one guy who walks up with like all of his books and he wants them all signed, and Harlan's like, no, I'm not signing all your books. And he goes, oh well, you know, and they go, oh well, you're rude. He's like, yeah, whatever, fuck off. he wanted the guy to pay for an autograph for every single one of the books.
Of course he did.
Of course he did, right? Because money.
Money. I do everything for money. Oh, well,
exactly.
Really
he's such a Jew. He's such he may be an atheist, but he is Jew to the core. It's so funny. Gray says, by the way, if anyone was wondering, this stream is golden. Thank you, Gray.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. We really do appreciate that.
Yeah, we do try to make very entertaining streams. I mean, I know Harlan Ellison, but I look enough like him, so consider that.
We've always wanted to put a visual element so we could watch some of these things, but it's very hard to do with a movie stream because we will get caught on copyright shit for clips of movies. But when it comes to a lot of like interviews like this, I think
it's easy to.
Yeah, and these are great interviews because they're from a time when a time long past. So.
Next, we have Mick Garris interviewing him, so they're going to see 70s
is this
Harlan.
Mick Garris?
Yep.
Okay.
I put that one in, too.
Good guy Mick.
Good guy Mick Garris, maker of sequels and Stephen King shit shows. Now, let me get this off the screen, and there we go. Z presents.
Yeah, I think it's Channel Z is what this was on in California.
Fantasy Film Festival. And him and Harlan are friends too, I think, right?
Oh, they were. I imagine Mick is friends with everybody. There's Mick.
Yep, there he is.
The Fantasy Film Festival,
That's how he made his money.
We show the best science fiction, fantasy, and horror films we can find and show them as they were intended, uncut and uninterrupted. Tonight we have what has become a cult favorite
A Boy and His Dog.
In 1975, A Boy and His Dog. The film was based on a story, a novella by Harlan Ellison, and we have Harlan Ellison here with us. The story won a Nebula Award, which you see right here.
There it is.
And it's in this book, The Beast
Wow, that cover.
at the Heart of the World.
Yeah, it's a cool cover.
And our guest, Harlan Ellison. Hello. Hello, Mick.
Just smoking, huh, Harlan?
Of course, we have our guest, Harlan Ellison, just a cloud of smoke.
A story never comes from one
with glasses and a
Jew
nose.
Different inputs that form it.
His haircut's different again.
Particular story.
Yeah. Does it?
The confrontation during the.
Oh, we don't have the description on here. It would probably tell you in the description the date.
principally
it's the 70s still.
Following the Kent State
It's either the
massacre
70s or early 80s. One
of
the two.
There's a Star Wars poster in the background.
I heard a news item.
And Mick looks a bit young still.
In Kent,
that
Ohio,
70s comb-over, says John.
Fat businessmen, the burgers of our time.
The burgers of our time.
For their weekly luncheon, you see, and they passed a motion that they felt that the National Guard should have slaughtered all the kids. One of the more charming remarks of our time.
My victimhood.
And, I thought to myself, there is really a huge gap in this country in understanding between the young and the old. And at that time, I had a dog.
The young are stupid, Harlan.
A sheepdog named Abu. And,
Abu.
The dog is probably a sad comment.
The problem
on me,
with Abu.
Probably the closest friend I've ever had in my life.
Mick's just laughing at that.
I wrote the story for the dog.
You don't have many friends, do you, Harlan?
And it's a study of survival.
I wrote this book for my dog.
All of these things sort of came together.
He's not going to read it, but I'll read it to
Bert
him.
Streletsky had done it in L.A. magazine in his Westward series about a dog at LAX that sniffed out marijuana.
Okay.
And I used that as an element in the story.
Why?
It was a story that immediately caught on, and people admired quite a lot. And
admired my book.
We did it as a television series.
You happy about that, Harlan? You don't seem too happy.
Which has been very, very popular.
Right. It's very rare, it seems, that a writer is satisfied
Did he
with
sue
a film,
the dog?
or happy with a film that comes out of his original work. It seems to be the case with You and a Boy and His Dog. What are the problems in transferring a literary work to film?
Well,
here we go.
One of the widely believed myths is that a good book makes a bad film. A book and a film are two different things. They work in two different ways. There's a different sensibility behind them. And I think it's impossible to take a book one for one and make it into a film. You take a look at something like Moby Dick, which is very, very multi-level, and so
second time now he's brought up
it seems shallow,
yes,
even despite a really fine screenplay by Ray Bradbury. In this case, it was a fairly simple story, and it was fairly easy
like I mentioned my friend Ray Bradbury.
Film. The problems
one of my only friends.
Basically,
besides Isaac Asimov,
very violent,
Robert Bloch,
very mean and amoral story. And
I mean, that's a pretty crew. That's a pretty good crew to have around you.
True.
Satisfied, you used the word satisfied. I am, on some, satisfied by the film. I think it's quite a good film. L.Q. Jones did what I consider to be an extraordinarily fine job. My dislike of the film lies in the area of sexism, because L.Q., being a good old boy from Texas, doesn't understand that, it seems to me. And when
You'll see, we'll watch the movie on Friday.
Film, that was the thing that struck me most, that a lot of his personal feeling about women and male-female relationships had crept into the film, which is very, very, very dangerous in this film because of the ending, which I will not tip or go into, but it's an ending that is easily misunderstood.
Now, you've gotten a lot of flack because you are...
It's understood. It's a fantastic ending.
And the like, because of this film.
Yeah. I've done a lot of work for the ERA, and invariably, I will have some woman stand up in an audience and say, if you respect women so much and you're so much for women's rights, how could you do such and such a movie? And I have to say to them, well, I didn't do the movie. I didn't write the movie. I didn't direct the movie. It's the work of L.Q. Jones, and it's his perceptions, but it is based on my story. And it's always the ending.
And then because of that protester, he would write the rape scene in I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream.
That I set up in the story. It's a purely survival
Porky,
society.
he has had a female relationship. He had a wife.
Precedent. In any society,
she must have got sick of him real quick.
War. I mean, you can take the War of the Roses.
He would always say, I don't know how she puts up with me.
I don't know how anyone puts up with Harlan.
A place to sleep, food, and weapons, and women become chattel.
Yes, and the early male feminist.
And the story is very carefully and baldly intended to say
sure
this is
his
not
wife
a good
would
thing.
cuck the shit out of him.
Item, and it should be done away with. But unfortunately, audiences seem to have a capacity for horror that has been unparalleled since the days of Torquemada. The more terrible you make something to show people that this is not good, the more the loons who sit in the little theaters in the valley, pound their knees and say, "Oh yeah, kill him." And,
Dawn of the Dead, an example.
Yeah, exactly. They want more car crashes and they want more ripped out vitals. And
how dare horror be a thing?
The whole concept of allegory is been divested from film. You just can't do it.
Did you have any input at the time the screenplay was being written?
Very little. This was one of the few occasions in my life, in 25 years of writing, that I was not doing much writing. I don't know what it was. I guess I just got tired is what it was. And I was supposed to be doing the screenplay, and I wrote the first, I guess about the first 9 minutes
Harlan
of this
Ellison,
film,
just in case you forgot who he was, audience.
From my script.
Don't worry, he'll sue you if you forget.
He's got like the buttons unbuttoned. He's got his gold chain.
I mean, I think it's an insight into my wonderful warped personality that the meanest line in the film occurs in that first 9 minutes. The only input thereafter was when the film had been done, and I saw a rough cut,
Jenny. He's very full of himself.
Full of sexist lines that I knew were
sexist lines
on the college
Darth
campus.
Vader helmet.
Mostly because they came out of the mouth of the dog.
The dog
People who
came.
have not seen the film are going to say, out of the mouth of the dog.
Strzok says he oozes Stephen
King
King pretentiousness.
Yeah, he does.
And,
he does. He looks like like you could do a movie Twins with Stephen King and Harlan Ellison from this era.
Human beings have been reduced to the level of animals. It's a complete flip-flop, which is why I use the title of Boy and His Dog to mimic the Albert Payson Terhune dogs, those Sweetness and Light dog stories. And when I saw these, when I heard these sexist lines, I really got crazed behind it. I said, LQ, you can't let these go this way. And he said, well, we've used up all the money. There's no money left to do.
Oh, here we go.
Dubbing.
What he does.
We can't take it to the writers' studios and have the sound redone. We just haven't got the money. So I said, okay, there's a science fiction convention coming up.
Here we go.
Science fiction convention in Washington, D.C., I guess 4 years ago, whatever it was. And I said, give me as many outtakes as you've got. And we cut them up into little 5-frame snippets, and I sold the damn things for $10 a piece. And he needed something like $700, and I hawked them like a fish peddler at the convention.
Of course.
Up a little
He
came back with a bag full of money, dollar bills, $5 bill, and I dumped them on his desk and said, okay, go take those rotten lines out.
Go take those rotten lines out.
With the exception of the last line in the film that I absolutely despise.
That is the funniest way of film financing I've ever heard.
Jesus Christ, Harlan.
What happened to the TV show? I know there was a sequel and a prequel story, weren't there, that you wrote?
Yeah, well, there is a prequel to this story, A Boy and His Dog, called Egg Sucker.
Egg Sucker?
It's a short story, and it's been published. And the sequel is called Blood's a Rover.
Blood's a Rover.
From the poem, that's one of us, not totally blown away, who wrote the poem, For Blood's a Rover that never rests, or something, blah, blah, blah. And the dog's name is Blood, and he's a dog and is a rover, and wonderful.
Yeah, great, we get it.
We get it, Blood's a Rover.
Was the TV show, were these to be drawn from these stories in addition to
the story about Epstein?
No, the original was not to be used at all. It was a combination of Egg Sucker and A Boy and Blood's a Rover.
I see.
And what happened was that after having been affiliated with LQ, LQ is not one of the easiest
trying to track onto Harlan Ellison.
I'm being politic in saying that.
I'm being politic in saying that.
He has a personality that is a cross, I suspect, between Jack the Ripper and Vlad the Impaler. You see, and he and I are both fairly tough individuals, and we don't take any bull from either one. But he likes to have his way. And I didn't want to work with him again, and all of a sudden I found that he had managed somehow to sell the idea of A Boy and His Dog as a television series with a film, with a made-for-movie.
Say the words, come on. Yeah,
fairly steadily and rationally.
You used to be able to speak, then money got shoved in your mouth.
Preceded a 2-hour film. And the only problem was that he didn't have the rights to do it on TV. I owned the rights. But he had gone ahead and made this deal. So suddenly we found ourselves, if you'll pardon the expression, in bed with one another business-wise.
Oh, God.
And we went to NBC, and I thought they were deranged for even considering the idea of
There's a remake coming.
This is a movie about sex, violence.
Yeah, I happened to look it up. It said A Boy and His Dog in pre-production.
Ooh, Harlan ain't gonna be happy about that. Oh wait, he's dead.
As it turned out, I was able to write a screenplay, a 2-hour screenplay called Blood's a Rover that worked very well indeed.
We get it.
It fell apart before it ever got on the air. The reasons I subsequently found out from network execs who were no longer with NBC. Met them at a party or something like that. And
why? Why would you meet them there?
Rather than leave Theta and myself open for a lawsuit, I would just as soon say that they were happy with the script. They were not happy with the business arrangements and the personnel, because LQ and I were both tied to it. And I will let people wonder whether I'm me or him, whatever. It doesn't
that's
matter.
a lot of brown. Is that supposed to be light brown with dark brown, that suit, or is that a yellow suit?
I don't know,
several
man.
different possible
It looks
futures. Are you an
awful.
It's
optimist or a
technicolored,
pessimist
so
as
that's
concerns our
why
future?
this is
I'm
before
a
where TV
pragmatist.
oh god.
My basic feeling
I'm a
about the human race
pragmatist.
is that any species that can paint the Sistine Chapel ceiling and write Moby Dick and put a human being on the moon does not necessarily have to settle for Charlie's Angels and McDonald's Toad Burgers.
Toad Burgers?
But left to our own devices, I suspect we will always, act like animals. I mean, look at people in gas lines shooting each other.
When does that happen? Where does that happen?
As they say in Latin. I hope for better things.
Okay, we all hope for better things.
It was white when he put it on in the morning.
And we will be seeing in just a moment A Boy and His Dog, based on the story A Boy and His Dog.
A deeply enriching experience.
A deep enriching experience.
Thank you for joining us, and thank you, Harlan, for joining me here on the show.
Thank you for
He blends into the set. He does, Cindy.
Jesus.
What do we got next? The Terminator thing?
I think it may be, possibly. We'll see what's next. Something, I don't remember what it was. I can't see the playlist.
I see it. It says Terminator Origins.
Oh, okay, fine.
Harlan Ellison Terminator Origins.
Yeah.
So we talked about this on our James Cameron episode.
Yeah, we'll see it now. We'll see older Harlan. Because this is older Harlan now. Oh, this video unavailable. Playback on website has been disabled by owners.
Ooh.
Well, that's unfortunate.
So basically, just to go through it, A Demon with the Glass Hand and Soldier were Outer Limits episodes that were written by Harlan Ellison.
Yes.
And when you actually watch the episodes, or when they actually take some of the clips from the episodes and then you compare them to Terminator, it's very clear where James Cameron ripped off the inspiration from.
Yep. Oh, I know, he dreamt of it when he was making Piranha 2, remember?
Ah, yes, he had a fever dream.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Except that's not true at all.
No.
Now, James Cameron calls it a nuisance lawsuit. But it's pretty clear that James Cameron sort of ripped it off.
Yep.
Now, Harlan
also mark on your bingo boards that we mark James fucking Cameron, Jet, because we just brought up James fucking Cameron.
Now, Harlan is known for his lawsuits, obviously, but it's very clear that there was something going on here.
Yeah.
We will not get to see him talk about it, but if you ever just type in like Harlan Ellison Terminator Origins, you'll be able to see the video 100% completely.
Do you mind clicking on the next one so we could skip over, by the way? Because I can't click on it. I can't see it. I have it so it's set. You should be able to click. There you go.
Yeah, and you can
I'll
pause it or play it or
I'll pause it.
Yeah,
I just paused it real quick. It's 23 minutes, which we'll be going over next.
Masters of Fantasy, Harlan Ellison. It looks like he's got gray hair in this.
Yeah, this is older Harlan in this one. That is this one that we will be watching.
Grace said the camera lenses were all nicotine stained. It was a magical era. Yes, a lot of smoking. So you guys have been getting a feel for who Harlan Ellison is.
And I will put in gray. He sent me a clip that I didn't think of putting in that we've seen before, which is a Harlan Ellison interview in the 70s again, but it's in London with that British bitch. That sounds really stupid.
Yes, I've seen that. Yes.
Yeah.
We can definitely put that in for sure.
Yeah, we will at the we'll put it at the end of what we watch.
Before we go on, just a quick little thing about one of his episodes that it's called Memo from Purgatory.
Yes.
Now, Harlan moved somewhere. He wanted to be a writer, and the first thing, it's an autobiographical sort of television episode, or it was a book, but they turned it into a television episode for the Hitchcock Hour, the Alfred Hitchcock Hour. Harlan claims, and I say claims because I don't know how true a lot of his stories are, but he claims that one of the first things he did when he wanted to be a writer was he went and he joined a gang. Of when gangs were running, deuces and all those shit, when gangs were mainly like whites or Italians or something like that. And he basically he joined this gang and he wanted to write about them, and they sort of found out about that So he got like beat up, and then he was arrested for something, and he was let out of jail. He was let out of jail when they found out that he was a writer, and basically towards the end, he was able to write about it, but the gang, I guess, tried to kill him at some point. So I don't know how true that really is, but it is, I guess, as true as it's gonna get. I guess for Harlan.
Yeah, he's never. You can't really tell when he says the truth or he's just making something up because it's Harlan Ellison. I mean.
Yeah. Now the gang, when they found out, they tried to kill him. It's autobiographical, so like they put him through these initiations, and the name of the gang in the episode is the Barons, and the leader of the gang is Chekhov. But they have to they take off their belts and they wrap them around their hands so that the belt buckle is free, and they hit them with belt buckles.
Of course.
But what Harlan does, well, basically the guys line up on like either side, and you have to run through them while they hit you with belt buckles and shit.
Yeah.
Well, Harlan, because he's such a he-man, he picks the guy up. He picks the first guy up.
Okay. Already an X on that. I doubt.
He picks the guy up in a fireman carry and spins him around and knocks all the other guys out with
Jesus Christ. That's so unbelievable.
Yeah, it's completely unbelievable to me. I don't think that. I think it's definitely inflated. An inflated story for sure. He's 5'2".
Holy shit! Sorry, I just got something about gray-haired snake that I didn't realize. Harlan Ellison is the epicenter of so much. He even has an acquaintance with L. Ron Hubbard of all people as well.
Really?
Holy fuck!
So he's a Scientologist.
He helped him with Dianetics.
Oh my god. Harlan the Scientologist.
The Scientologist atheist Jew.
Also in the episode, Memo from Purgatory, James Caan plays Harlan Ellison, which is not.
No.
I don't know how tall James Caan is, but he's certainly taller than fucking Harlan Ellison.
Yeah.
So Scientology, says Jenny. Yeah, Harlan Norris. Okay. No, he didn't help. He saw it happen and called it out as bullshit. Says Gray.
Oh, okay. Oh, he did? Okay. I went wrong then.
Strog says, Cindy, don't let people know you like Maximum Overdrive. That's taboo. Strog, I love Maximum Overdrive. Maximum Estevez.
Maximum Estevez.
Estevez Overdrive.
Oh,
it's a fantastic film. I love it.
Oh, I see. Thank you, Gray-haired snake. Yeah, the real science behind Scientology is not what you think. So Harlan Ellison called out L. Ron Hubbard on his bullshit.
Well, there you go. At least he's got that. See, there are likable things or redeeming factors about Harlan, but you know,
it's his loudmouthness that makes it so it's really not.
Exactly. It's his obnoxious, pretentious, he's full of himself, like Chat's been saying. He's a Jew. He's this little pipsqueak, really.
Yeah.
Which on one of the interviews I watched, Tom does sort of call him a pipsqueak. Talks about his size and how small he is.
Yeah. Shame we couldn't find it, but...
Yeah, I have it somewhere, but I'd have to go through them again to see it. Because I watched about 6 of the late show or Tomorrow with Tom. So I watched about 6 of those episodes. 6 of those interviews. They were really good.
So
who made who? We made you, Taco. We made you. Yeah, Hubbard confided in Ellison about Scientology, and he called him out as a bullshit artist, and that's exactly what he was.
Yep.
Gray-haired snake, a bullshit artist. No, you can't like Stephen King movies, says Strong.
Ooh, liking Stephen King in any regards, that's just a death sentence waiting to happen to.
I mean, look, there's a couple things out there. There's a couple movies out there that are pretty good, even though they're written by Stephen King. You really like Salem's Lot. And the new chapter 1 of It is pretty good.
Chapter 2 looks like it'll be okay, possibly.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. I heard mixed reviews. I think I reported that.
Yeah, you did.
I didn't report it.
You're a reporter now, huh? Are you Harlan Ellison this up?
Guido McReportiti.
Don't trip on the pasta sauce on your way out.
He's literally Scrappy Jew.
Yeah.
Sweet.
That's great.
Instead of Scrappy too.
Yeah.
But yes, he's got some redeeming qualities. But for the most part, he's a loudmouth.
Yeah.
So I mean, we can move on. We can watch this.
All right. Let's get on to it. All right. Type.
Oh, he loves a typewriter, by the way.
More than
he does not like computers.
Look, well, of course he doesn't. He fucking made Am.
His television shows have transported audiences to where no man has gone.
Ooh, strode through the donut. The donut.
This man's name is
Oh, hi, Robin Williams.
Brace yourself for some.
I didn't notice him. I didn't recognize him since he wasn't swinging. Harlan was probably like, "Yeah, you should kill yourself."
Inside the creative mind of Harlan Ellison, a master of fantasy. Most writers are shy creatures. They labor in obscurity, silently translating thoughts and dreams.
Most writers are alcoholics.
Yeah.
Harlan Ellison is not one of those writers.
Is he wearing a Flash shirt?
It's either Flash or Shazam.
No, Shazam. You're right.
I love to write. I just love to write. When I sit down at the typewriter, man.
Writing sci-fi on a typewriter is a bit ironic. Good point, Jenny.
All right,
yeah.
Do it. When I hear writers complain about, oh, it's such hard work, you know, you people ought to be out digging ditches, for God's sake.
Soft-spoken, timid, shy.
Is that Leonard Nimoy?
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
After spending 2 or 3 hours in his company, I have to go lie down for a while.
Just leave.
A comic trapped in the body of a great science fiction writer.
How many
comic
nuns do you have here in the order?
What?
It's the most refreshing, honest, direct, unequivocal, specific, verbal, shy person I've ever known.
Never forget.
More awards than anybody else.
Alcoholics or druggies. That's right, Cindy. Yeah.
Nobody gave me anything. I
Look
worked
at Charles
my
Bukowski.
ass off to get those awards. See, as you can clearly tell, I am not the world's most lovable guy. So
we get it,
Harlan.
Harlan.
Award means the work has got to be really great.
Ellison talks the talk, but he also walks the walk. With 74 books and 1,700.
That's all my own books.
Hold on, pause.
Okay,
he's one of the most prolific.
Okay, he's only 5'2". That room, the top shelf in that room it's everything smaller so he can reach it. It's gotta be smaller so he can reach everything. I swear, because I could see the ceiling almost.
Yeah, I do too. It's
shelf.
Oh my god.
Okay, I just noticed that.
Oh.
Miniature house, yes, great.
If I were a plumber.
He lives in the Shire.
And I had fixed 10,000 toilets. Would you say I'm a prolific plumber? That's what I do. I'm a writer.
He makes a good point there too. If I fixed 1,000 toilets, would I be a prolific plumber?
Elements of mystery,
he has tobacco tins on his wall.
Shattering the boundaries
of course.
Imaginative literature.
He does.
The cameraman is hunched over.
In a way. You know,
Harlan, can we not film in your house? No,
I
need
have
it
no
here.
mouth and I'm a screen.
We can't fit in there.
Piece of writing. Extraordinary. He takes
it's like that scene from Lord of the Rings when they all show up in the house.
Yeah.
Or is that
So is everything in Leonard Nimoy's house to remind me of the Holocaust?
Probably.
Because it looks like it is.
You know
William
the
Gibson?
victimhood from these people.
In a sense,
yes, William Gibson.
Cyberspace story. There's a very interesting
cyberspace
blurring.
Yeah, William Gibson, isn't he like he started like Cyberpunk or something?
Yeah, I think he did actually.
Quit pulling that crap on me again. And you can shove that part about how you lost the ability to hunt for food when you learned how to talk.
I mean, you don't realize what a boon.
Don't you yell at that dog?
All these
He's doing it.
Create all these worlds, and people actually think I'm worth something. I mean, here you are sitting here doing a show about me. Boy, have I got you suckers fooled.
Of course.
You will see you.
Do not attempt to adjust the picture.
Do not
Ellison
attempt.
has been equally successful.
I think we'll see a little bit of Demon in with the hands.
Yeah, we will.
Hollywood.
We will see it here.
Pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah, this is it.
Has been a contentious one.
Contentious writer. What a shock.
Believes that the vision of the original creator has to be respected.
Brian Walton.
That's the fount of
Executive Director, Writers Guild of America.
Of course. And he has expressed that privately, publicly.
The fuck is this? What is this?
Lunging across
Flash Gordon?
lunch tables at executives and in just about any way that you can think.
Is this Star Trek?
No, I think this is Flash Gordon.
Using details to distract us from doing what must be done.
They do not understand the
because it's not Star Trek
of the creator. The writer creates it, not the actor, not the director,
me,
not the people who read it. The writer is the one who creates it.
Harlan's policy is that you will treat what I write with respect.
The creator. Oh, maybe that was Babylon 5.
Ah, Farscape. Farscape or Babylon 5, or is those the same things?
I don't know.
Babylon 5 says
Harlan's
strong.
friend Robin Williams has often witnessed the author's short fuse.
But I think the creator of Babylon 5 is a big douche.
It's cellophane thin, and people will say something stupid.
Unless it's the other fucking
That's
one.
stupid. You're a moron. You proved to me that Darwin was wrong. Harlan, no, come on, he's a priest. Let go of him.
This guy writes me and he says, I am 3 foot tall, and we don't like being called midgets. We like being called little people.
Ellison's
well, you know all about that, don't you?
Has made him a popular television guest. In fact, in recent years, he has become his
The author's short fuse. I didn't catch that one, John.
And finally, I wrote him back a letter, and I said, Dear Mr. Johnson,
yeah, that was Babylon
5. I'm a little
He just lied about his height.
Yes, he did.
He said I'm 5'5". He's not.
He's 5'2".
Politically incorrect.
Politically incorrect. The Late Late Show. Oh, so it is the Late Late Show.
I'm blacker than O.J. Simpson. I know, for God's sakes. I'm a big mouth.
I'm blacker than O.J. Simpson. Oh no. Oy vey.
Oh god.
Can you go back to that?
Yeah.
Can we watch that again?
Yeah. Well, give me a second. I'm looking at something because I want to be sure because I thought I heard the Babylon 5 writer is a big lefty. Just seeing if that's true.
Probably that makes
Probably
sense.
Is.
I left for 20 minutes and this is when I walk back into said shrimp.
Yeah. All right. Let's play it. Let's play this again.
Politically incorrect, and the Late Late Show with Tom Snyder.
Please welcome my good friend, Mr. Harlan Ellison.
I'm blacker than O.J. Simpson. Dude, I know, for God's sakes. I'm a big man. I'm a guy who runs his face, and that's just another place to do it. And here
man.
I am given a
Harlan, no, you are not.
I saw that interview. He goes on this whole thing about how like it's clear that OJ is guilty.
Anything I can pry loose is not nailed down.
Of course, you're a
While
thief.
Ellison's television commentaries have been known to cause a stir, his personal appearances are even more memorable.
Oh.
One of his favorite undertakings is to craft an original short story in public.
Really?
It's a great pleasure to do.
I kind of
it
like this
shows
idea.
people that
He's just
writing is
in
a good
public,
job.
just doing it,
It's not
writing.
some mystical trick
And I've always
that
said
people
this
can
because
do.
I do a bit of
It's
writing
also
myself,
a
and
talent.
writing Twitter is terrible
stories are
because
written
like
in
it's
bookstore
always I am
windows,
writing,
no pre-planning.
and it's all these
I came up with
tips.
about
And
100
the one
clever
tip I can
ideas,
give for any writer
all
is
of
just
which
sit
I
down and
discarded
fucking
because I
write.
realized I wanted to leave the
That's
cleverness
all.
to the writer here. To get this event started, X-Files creator Chris Carter is showing
Of course, Chris Carter
up.
shows up to
Particularly
bug Ellison.
challenging suggestion.
He gives him a suggestion.
You're a terrible man. It says the 102-year-old pregnant corpse.
Within seconds,
Here's a
Ellison
story
begins
all
work
about
on the
it.
Story. 2 fingers hammering away on his manual typewriter at 120 words a minute.
Harlan, you know, it usually helps when you write with not 2 fingers, right?
And in the degree that I prefer. I don't like the PC. I don't like what the copy looks like. I like the fact that
Cindy
if I hit
says,
an
"Let me
S
echo
key,
Grazer
the S
comment. This stream is absolute gold.
my connection
Thank
to
you, guys."
They asked me to come and give him the suggestion, and I gave him the suggestion of a computer vampire, the bite that bites. And he said, "Screw you! I don't know anything about computers." And he
Do
wrote
not
a
feed
story.
the writer.
No matter what the subject,
He also doesn't like
Ellison conducts
vampires
his
either.
spontaneous symphony, and pages are
Maybe because
pasted
he
in the
is
store
one?
window as they are
It's like you're in Amsterdam going, "What about these?" Talk to a Jewish writer. Come read
Robin.
Amazingly, a few hours later,
He
the
types
story
like a
is finished.
boomer, says Jenny.
While the crowd
He
reads
does.
the results in the window, the author
I think there's a
gracefully
reason why
claims
he
victory.
types like that.
That devilish jackanapes, Chris
I
Carter
think there's
thought he
something
had
about
me
how he
stumped.
broke his hands and he only had 2 fingers.
I have you, Carter. I have you.
Harlan Ellison has dangerous visions and enters the world of Babylon 5. Next on Masters
Wait, he
of
ended the
Fantasy.
world of Babylon 5?
He enters.
Oh, entered it. Okay.
Well, you got to get Harlan Ellison. What are you making a Star Trek ripoff? You got to get Harlan Ellison.
Of course.
All right. What is this?
The blackness of space.
God, the blackness. What is it going to be as long as the commercials?
Harlan Ellison continues on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Oh, this is on Sci-Fi.
Is not a human being.
They were just sort of like giving you a breather. Like, all right, we'll give you a breather from this little Jew.
Fascinating works of fiction and outrageous commentary.
Oh, here we go.
I gotta tell you, I think vampires are dopey.
I mean,
I
you are
no
one.
use for vampires. I mean, sucking blood is not my idea of a good time.
Not unless it's from your wallet.
Every bit is captivating. Born in Cleveland and raised in Painesville, Ohio, he didn't
Oh,
wait
look.
long to begin what would be
Ohio.
adventure.
Painesville is a fucking
I ran
slum,
away from my first time when I was 13.
Hi, Moppy.
I wasn't abused. I had a wonderful
Come here.
family, but I just.
I always
knew
had to play
that
the
world was
victim.
mine if I could just go out there and find it.
I
Toby
had to
Tyler
play the
wrote 10
victim
Years with a
all the
Circus, a
time.
famous children's book, and I had read it, and this kid runs away and joins a circus. And so I did too, and I ran away, but I couldn't find a circus. But I did find a carnival.
Ellison was arrested and returned to his parents.
Dumbass.
But he had tasted the outside world. A few years later, he attended Ohio State University and was
That Ohio
quickly
State University.
frustrated by traditional.
The Ohio State University.
So I had this college professor told me I had no talent. You'll never be able to write. And if you continue to write, if you continue to bat your wings against the window like a moth, he said you will be frustrated. And I punched him.
Right in the face.
I hit him very hard.
This was not.
I bet you broke your hand too. You soft little Jew.
Ellison was
Probably
told
did.
He was no longer welcome.
No shit.
State.
Gee, I
Sat
wonder
around for
why.
about 3-4 months, and then I went to New York.
Isn't it like?
got
Isn't it
myself
always
some
like the
jobs, and I
liberals to
started
get
writing. I
violent?
sold 2 stories
Yep.
the first year and 110 stories.
Glowworm.
And I've been doing it ever since.
110 stories the
Ellison's
second year.
brash and innovative fiction, and his equally brash personal style.
What the fuck is that outfit?
Is that him? Is that him?
That was. Do you want to take another look at that real quick?
I need to go back.
Science fiction.
And
I
110
need to
stories.
see that.
I'll pause it. I'm waiting.
Ellison's brash and innovative fiction, and his equally brash personal.
Look at that. What the fuck?
Is that our Harlan?
Yeah, that's him.
Is that Harlan?
That's him.
Holy shit!
That's him in the '60s.
Got his sunglasses on inside. What a badass!
This fucking. What's the shirt he's wearing?
I wonder if he's got a booster seat.
Probably.
He's got to. He's a beatnik. Yes, he's definitely a beatnik.
You finished there, Moppy?
Okay, you can.
Yeah, look at it.
Instantly attracted young readers like future cyberpunk icon William Gibson.
William
I
Gibson.
noticed that there was this guy who wrote science fiction, but he would also turn up like in Playboy.
Shit, man. That's weird,
What's
man.
that accent?
Wearing a cool jacket.
Walter Gibson.
He was this crossover.
Yeah, William
guy.
Gibson. Hold on, let me
And he
see
was like a
something.
science fiction writer, but he was really hip.
This is a guy who lived in the
Fantasists
'60s too
are
much.
special kinds of dreamers. Their minds come
From
someplace
South
else.
Carolina.
Their
Oh,
thoughts are
Jesus
someplace
Christ,
else.
the outfit again.
They deal with this oneness with the cosmos.
Oh my God.
Ellison's star rose quickly, and in
Wonder.
1967, his
future's so bright he's gotta wear
Dangerous
shades.
Visions
That's right, Cindy.
exploded on the literary
Dangerous
scene.
visions.
You didn't see any stories about black people. You didn't see any stories by women. You didn't see stories about labor relations or
Who
sex.
gives? Because no one gave a shit about those
or
topics.
religion. So I said,
Because
I
they're
really would like
illiterate.
to edit a book that's filled with stories that are so offbeat,
I mean,
so
blacks
dangerous.
were
that no
illiterate at
magazine
the
would
time.
touch them.
Yeah.
When Dangerous Visions came out, Harlan had this wonderful kind of badass avant-garde attitude.
Badass.
Going with it. And this was going to be like the gloves off, full frontal, as crazy as you want it to be.
What is this outfit?
We need a new literature that speaks to this kind of feeling and to these needs.
His voice sounds even worse when he's
Ellison soon
younger.
became one of the most requested speakers on the college lecture circuit.
He
In fact,
looks
he continues
like,
playing to halls packed with students today. He may be a
He
few
looks
years
like
older,
he's
but
about to
he's
set
just
up
as captivating.
a utopia in Guyana.
Yeah.
That's what I am. I'm not some mealy-mouthed agnostic who says, well, maybe.
Harlan not only speaks.
How
at
dare
colleges,
agnostics
but teaches
exist
as
when I'm
well.
an atheist?
In fact, he was the first to recognize the talent of author and MacArthur Genius Grant recipient Octavia Butler.
he was.
Oh, he was just complaining no blacks, no women. He found it in one person.
He would hold up a piece of writing.
Is this a
mine, for instance?
That's a man.
I can't read this.
Yeah, this was a. That's a.
It sounds like a man. He talks like this.
Another young writer inspired by Ellison was J. Michael Straczynski,
didn't need to be.
creator of television's Babylon 5.
I had aspirations of being a writer, but to my mind,
he's so far up his own ass he could check his own prostate. Says Rob.
Yeah.
Then I encountered Memos from Purgatory.
Memos from Purgatory.
Totally real.
Here it is.
Very, very, very dangerous section, and I ran with the gang for 6 weeks.
Italians,
so
probably.
Novel. And out of it came my
Think of it, a Jenova. Your dad could have possibly beat up Harlan Ellison.
It's possible. Hold on, let me see when Harlan was born.
He decided to give Harlan a call to see if the author could help.
So at 21 years old, I called the phone number.
34. It's very possible. It's very possible.
Yeah, what do you want?
You gotta ask your dad sometime. Hey, Dad, you know this science fiction writer named Harlan Ellison? Yeah, what about that little faggot? I punched him real good.
And I thought maybe you could help me. He said, all right, I'll tell you what the deal is. I can tell you why your stuff isn't selling. It's crap. Stop writing crap. If it weren't crap, it would sell.
Crap.
Many years later, when Straczynski launched his series Babylon 5, he once again turned to Ellison for guidance.
Can you tell me about your Star Trek episode called Edge of Tomorrow?
Because I wanted
I'd like
to
to
have
make a
one
series.
of the foremost minds of the 20th century at my disposal, which cannot be a bad thing by anyone's measure.
One of the things I said was, you put that many people living together in a space station, they're going to start beating the crap out of each other, and they're going to be worried about the human things that
That's an
people are worried
outfit.
about. Who?
Tom Savini.
Answer me!
Next on Masters of Fantasy, Harlan Ellison's journeys to the outer limits and the final frontier.
Doo-doo-doo.
Another black screen. Just to
Just
give
a
you
break.
breather. Just a breather from this mealy mouth chew.
You really need it. You really fucking need it.
Masters of Fantasy, Harlan Ellison continues.
Harlan
on the
Ellison.
Sci-Fi Channel.
Tell them to set course for Sigma 957.
Yeah, this is just beat for beat for Star Trek.
Long before
Wow.
Harlan Ellison worked on Babylon
It really
5,
is, yeah.
He was asked to write a script for the most famous science fiction series in television history.
Star Trek.
Time portal,
which still technically is, even if J.J. Abrams keeps trying to fucking kill it.
Ellison's 1967 Star Trek episode, The City on the Edge of Forever, has been singled out by TV Guide as the finest show of the landmark series and one of the 100 greatest programs in television history.
Jim, Edith Keeler must die.
I just knew that it was
Edith
going to be an
Keeler
exciting
must
episode
die.
to shoot because it had a
Harlan
dynamic
Ellison
about it.
must
It had
die.
It had a thematic thrust to it. That
Yeah, we.
I'm gonna write a book and name it that.
Harlan Ellison must die. It's about someone going back in time to kill Harlan Ellison.
Going back in time to stop Harlan Ellison. It'll be a black woman.
A man has to let the woman he has come to love die, or the rest of the world will go down the
Harlan
tubes.
Ellison is a vampire. He's a computer vampire. And she's gotta stop him.
He knows, Doctor.
He knows, Doctor. He knows he could have stopped.
His work is unique. It's recognizably unique. You say, well, this is...
We get it, Leonard Nimoy. Can you not keep talking this shit in front of all your posters?
They probably couldn't get advertisers because the ad companies were afraid Ellison would sue them. Sounds about right.
Ellison's award-winning Outer Limits episode, Demon with a Glass Hand, was one of the highlights of the series.
He won an award for it.
You are the guardian of the human race.
Demon with a Glass Hand was one of the high points of my television career. I said, I love Robert Culp. He's just the guy to play Trent.
I want to know who's carrying the other 3 parts of my brain.
When I first met Harlan, which was on the set in the middle of the night, Demon with a Glass Hand,
Masters.
I honestly didn't know who
Masters,
he was.
whose
And
life is a
he
made-up
walked in and
fantasy.
said,
One day, a
very
bunch of
loud,
skinheads
"Who's
started
that
harassing a synagogue,
Episode
and I
of
kicked their ass with my smoking pipe is still in my
What do you
mouth.
think, I think it's very nice, man. It's a great script. I had no idea at the time.
It is a
that it
good
was as
episode.
great as it
Great,
was.
yeah.
To this day, I can't see it without welling up with tears.
He's just thinking of all that money he made.
He is. That's why he's
all that
crying.
money I made. Here's a single tear.
Here's a boy and his dog. A good film made by Harlan Ellison. Idea.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's a bit slow at
Despite
times,
Harlan's
but
prodigious output, only one of his stories has become a feature
awesome.
film.
Yeah.
A Boy and His Dog, based on
My blood.
Ellison's novella, was directed by
Blood.
L.Q.
Yep,
Jones
Blood's a good dog.
and won a Hugo Award in 1976.
You know you're starting to sound like a goddamn poodle.
You're starting to sound like a jackass.
Well, the film then won the Hugo.
It didn't even move.
Nope. The best dramatic presentation. And the interesting thing was they gave the damn award to LQ. Gave him the damn statue.
I didn't get it.
Yo, what about me? What am I, chopped liver? So they gave me the base, and they counted it as a 1/2 Hugo. I'm the only person ever to win a half Hugo.
Harlan Ellison.
Because you demanded it. You got the base because you probably went up there and tried to take it from the guy, and it came apart and your head broke.
Teleplays, to Edgar Awards for his mystery writing, and even a silver pen for journalism. So it's not surprising that he dislikes being labeled a science.
Is he wearing a Captain America shirt?
Categorize someone.
Possible. He is very into
identify them
comic
by
books.
a label, not by what they do, but by the label, and you exclude everything else, and they are trapped there for the rest of their natural life.
Ellison tries to avoid these traps by creating a diverse body of work. To maintain his formidable output,
look at my
he
library.
draws inspiration from his
Jesus, look at that library.
And his collection of more than 400,000
comic
He
books.
needs his wife to get
The Marvel
those top
family.
shelf.
Absolutely
Get that top shelf.
Yep. He
area
ain't
of
reaching
reading
that.
matter, right next to my bed.
He's a proto
stack of books
Bugman.
I'm working on, and this week's
That's
DC
right.
and Marvels. And I make no distinction between them, and I think anyone who does is a damn fool.
Not surprisingly, Harlan's emotion over such seemingly innocent subjects has caused him to step on a few toes.
Of course.
But his passion has endeared him to many of his peers.
Is that Ray Bradbury?
In fact, when asked about Ellison,
oh no,
Arthur C. Clarke.
Arthur C. Clarke.
Arthur C. Clarke. That's who I was thinking of.
Yeah.
I got his name backwards.
Heart-to-body ratio.
You did, yeah.
Of anyone I know.
Isaac Asimov also defended him too, so there's that as well.
Yeah.
The blackness, thank goodness. Whew.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Keep Harlan Ellison away from me, please.
Oh, Harlan.
This fuck is this music.
Recently, Harlan Ellison was able to combine his love of visual imagery with his talent for imaginative prose.
The
His book,
darkness
Mind
grows.
Field,
Yes,
contains 33 short
Yeah.
stories, each inspired by a different painting by Polish artist Jacek Jarka.
Jacek
Mind
Jarka.
Fields is my favorite book. Well, it took me about 7 months to write them, but and each
Only
one is around
7.
a painting, and each story is separate in itself. And one of them was in Best of the Year.
While the energetic Ellison
The
would
fuck is
appear to have
this?
many
Fuck
more
is
good years
this?
in front of him,
Oh,
a recent
he's,
culinary episode has caused him to slow down a little and take stock of his life.
Is that his
That's
wife?
his wife, yeah.
I don't want my wife.
He's reading to her because she's retarded.
His wife looks like she's in there for the money too. Is she also part of the lost tribe?
He went that
So I'm
JF
watching
route with the potato.
Has it changed my life? Yeah. Every moment with Susan.
Oh,
is a
God.
precious moment.
Yeah.
She does kind of look retarded.
Ooh. Yeah,
I mean,
possibly.
I was joking, but she looks a
No
little
matter how
slow.
many more stories Ellison writes, he has left an indelible impression on the literary landscape that has changed the world of imaginative fiction forever.
There's no holding back. There's no.
He still looks so
editing for
awkward in that
safety
picture with
or
fucking
for
Leonard Nimoy and
self-protection.
Kirk.
It's terribly revealing work.
He does not look happy.
Great
I
personal
bet he has a
passion
puzzle
work.
of flesh hidden somewhere, says Jeff.
Harlan
Oh, it's
is a
possible.
visionary, but he's also a pop artist. in
Thank you,
some
William
very
Gibson.
capital P way. He's a very American.
J.F. Ellison
phenomenon.
says
You know,
J.F.
and
Ellison.
Kind of in the way that Mark Twain.
Mark Twain? You compare Harlan Ellison to Mark Twain?
Oh
What
my
the-
god, shut the fuck up.
This is a dude.
Yeah, right.
This is a dude. This is a dude.
I love Harlan Ellison. He gave me a woman.
You know, have heard him speak. And
I'm a demon in a woman's body.
Prophets
Her voice
have a
sounds like
habit of
they're
not being
changing it to
respected
hide
in
her
their own
identity.
lifetime.
Like, you know when they
Yeah,
do that?
yeah.
Stoned to death, and derided. But in the aftermath, they say, "Oh, but they were right, weren't they?"
Harlan, do you still have that same suit?
Harlan's right
Holy
more often than he's
shit.
wrong.
He has the
I
same suit from the
suppose-
70s. What the fuck?
I would like to be remembered as a guy who was fair but took no crap. I would like 50 or 100 years after I'm gone, somebody to still be reading my stuff.
I'm pretty sure people will still read your shit, Harlan. Don't worry about it. Now you can't sue them if they ever want to make it into something else, though.
Do you want to watch that? Did Gray send you an interview?
He did, but first it's a clip, and then we'll watch it.
Oh, the Simpsons clip, okay.
Yeah, where we get to hear, and it's Harlan Ellison actually voicing himself for the episode, too.
Gene, they don't make suits like they used to, says Gray.
That's true.
Isn't it cruelty to animals to pierce a gorilla's ear like that? Says Rock. Amy, good gorilla.
The Sci-Fi Channel. Remember when it was decent? I remember when the Sci-Fi Channel was decent.
The minute they changed to SYFY, it turned to shit.
Here we go.
Now.
Is that Captain Canuck?
Yeah, it is.
That was Captain Canuck.
Yep.
Tell it to Harlan Ellison.
There he is.
I think you overprivileged kids with your electronic tablets and your talking phones wouldn't know a good piece of fiction if your iPod read it to your ass.
I wish someone would have come from the future and warned me not to talk to you.
That's my idea. You're stealing my idea.
That's my idea.
Let's listen to that again.
That's my idea. You're stealing my idea. Sorry.
You're stealing my idea. Can we hit it one more time?
Just okay.
From when Milhouse actually says it.
Yeah, okay. Let's. Here we go. What? Pause.
I wish someone would have come from the future and warned me not to talk to you.
It's my idea. You're stealing my idea. Sorry.
Jenova, you need to clip this one. Says Sweets. That's my idea.
You're stealing my idea.
Was this from the original Fall Out Boy episode? Says I possibly. I didn't watch too much Simpsons, so
I don't know. It's from something. It's like Milhouse just asked because he could be Fall Out Boy since he almost played him in a movie once. Then Harlan, it's like, tell that to Harlan Ellison. And Harlan's right, he just appears right in front of him and says, "You kids today wouldn't know good science fiction if you had your iPod rammed up your ass." I wish somebody.
Milhouse will hear from his lawyers.
Yeah. I have the interview. Sorry, excuse me a second.
Yeah, we got about 20 minutes. How long's the interview?
I don't remember. I mean, you don't really have 20 minutes. We have more time now because we don't have that thing that was keeping it before. We can go over if it's needed. I'll send it to you. Give me a second. Because you got to put it in. I can't. I don't have the input.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Here we go. Because mine switched to a side. There you go. There's the interview. It's this interview. The screenwriters for Good Afternoon.
Oh, it's 15 minutes, so it's...
Yeah, it's fine.
Oh, you know what? It's actually... Hold on one second, because it's in a... It's in a playlist. I don't think it'll show up.
Okay.
It's in a playlist. So just give me 1 second here.
You're stealing my idea.
That's my idea.
We get it. We get it, Harlan. Everything's your fucking idea.
Okay, hold on 1 second.
Yep.
Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Paste. I put it in, I think? Or can I add it? Do I add it to the playlist?
You add it to the playlist and you hit play on it, possibly. Okay. There you go. Oh, video unavailable.
Oh, no. That's awful.
Unfortunately, we cannot watch that one.
Hold on. Give me a second.
Okay. I'll give you a second.
Let me see if I can find another...
Yeah, I'll just switch to us again. It's you on the screen right at the moment as we're looking for another one. So I think everyone's gotten a pretty good idea of who Harlan Ellison is, by the way.
It's true, yes.
Didn't he claim... You said you're going to read stuff from the Wikipedia. We were going to do that because we had the clips, which are better, I think. I think that has led to a better stream. But didn't he claim, like, he beat somebody up that was his friend once, like, in front of somewhere? Didn't he say that? Or he bragged about beating somebody up?
Him and some guy from Frank Sinatra?
Yeah, that's right. That one.
Here, we can,
You got one?
I've got one.
Okay.
We'll watch this. It's about a half hour, and then we can,
Oh, it's tomorrow again. Random. Okay. Ooh.
It'll
For our
fix
sponsors and
itself.
the NBC television stations, thank you all for being here, and thank you all for being here. We'll be right back.
This is some quality film reel. There he is. Look at him, chat. The man who you've come to know quite well throughout the stream.
Harlan Ellison, my first guest.
Look at that
is the author
smoke.
of a new book which is called Shattered Words, which he'll explain later on, that came about after he appeared on a radio, trying to write a script for a reading here in New York some time ago. He just looked out at the house and he said, "Oh my God, it's usually you and me alone, so be careful tonight. Would you all please welcome my friend, Mr. Harlan Ellison." Harlan?
What is this outfit? Oh, it's the same one he had before, that like gray
there are
shifting
a lot of people
outfit.
that we're going to talk about that I don't necessarily want to have back
I'm in
here
the
as
red for
guests
some
under
reason
the
right
fairness
now. I don't
doctrine
understand
It
why.
says
sometime
F.
in
They're
the
saying
future.
F.
Yeah, what
Back
is,
says.
yeah, it's coming
What
back,
did you
yeah.
think of the election?
Okay,
We've talked
F5
politics here many times in
Yeah.
the past, and we've just had an election, all finished now. What are your observations on what happened?
Well, if I mention the president-elect by name, will he want equal time?
We would like to have him here.
Okay. Well, then, Uncle Ronnie...
Uncle Ronnie!
was our governor in California for 8 years and single-handedly destroyed the educational system of the state.
Wrong.
Apart
Wrong.
from that,
Let's pause that real quick. Wrong, Harlan. He didn't
He
destroy
will be
it.
challenged. He will be challenged.
Good.
Terrific.
Now, why do you say that he destroyed the educational system of the state?
Well,
the University of California
a woman will come up and say he actually made it more affordable for everybody.
All right. The public school system is still in operation in California, possibly not as good an educational system as it should be, but name one school, wherever you move in this country, people say the public schools are no good.
Harlan looks
here.
like he's really
I don't
defeated
care
just
if
by
it's
already.
Ashtabula, Ohio, New
Yeah.
York, Los
Ohio.
Angeles or Miami, everywhere you move,
Ohio,
they
of
say
course.
public schools here, no good.
Yeah, but they were good in California. We were number one
They
in the nation.
were good.
When Ronald Reagan came into office. When he left, we were something like, something between 18 and 22. I can't remember exactly what the number was. He
That's 'cause you're
put in a very
lying.
repressive...
That
he was
has
on the
to do
board
with
of,
your liberal professors.
Supervisors, whatever they call them, for the state schools.
The Board of Regents.
Board of Regents, that's right. And he cut out a lot of things that were very important.
There's
and,
that
his
fairness
response to the
doctrine,
free
says
speech
John.
movement,
Yup.
which is
The
what
little
started all of the
faggot is
campus unrest,
seething, says
was to call
Rock.
out the
Yup.
troops. Most people forget that how that started was that Mario Savio had a poem in the
That's right. That's right. He had a poem.
Stanford, Berkeley, whichever school it was. Berkeley, and
Oh
was,
my
and,
good
and
colleges.
It was a four-letter word in the poem. And I know people get bent out of shape at words, but a word is simply a word. That's all it is. And I suppose the more you
Here's a
use words, the
word,
more
Jew.
defanged they become, and the easier they are to handle. But they censored the magazine. And the students
The educational system was destroyed by the unions and the Department of Education, says
to say, this is our poetry magazine, this is our journalism magazine, we're allowed to do what we wish to, and it escalated from there. They went on a strike. And instead of handling it at that level, Mr. Reagan called in the troops. And it was the first big riot
California
on the
only has
college campuses,
clown colleges,
and it
says Rock.
escalated from there.
It's
Now, I'm not
Mr.
saying
Reagan's
that the times
fault.
were not right for that kind of thing. What I'm saying is that
So how come
a
when he
man
was
whose
out of
instinct
office, they
and
just
immediate
got getting
response to
worse and
something
worse
like
and
that
worse?
is
How come he didn't
calling
fix
the
it when he
National
was
Guard
gone then?
is a man who distresses me.
Because he
And I
left
personally-
California.
If it was his problem, if it was because of Ronald
See, I
Reagan,
have ambivalent feelings.
he's now
Because
Give
president.
me
He has nothing to
another
do with
response.
California.
When you're in a
Why isn't it
situation
fixed,
in-
Harlan? Why is
I
it
think
still?
it's right
Why
there.
is it even worse today?
Why
Like
do you
Cindy
think
brought
that
up,
stuff?
Berkeley is
tastes good.
terrible.
It doesn't taste as good as New York City tap water. They had a survey in the magazine.
Oh, he's making
New
fun
York
of him
tap
for
water is
drinking
better than
Pierre
this stuff.
water.
You pay $2.75 a glass for that in a restaurant, and then you come on here and decry the fate of poor people in this country.
Give it to him,
Well, in
Tom.
the past, you have. You've talked about
I have
all the...
decried poor people?
No, you decried the fate of poor people. You know,
I have a plan for getting rid of poor people. For
Is it
taking
eating
care of
them?
It's called the Ellison Inverse Tax Program, where we remove all taxes from the incredibly rich and put it all on the poor and tax them out of existence. Therefore, they vanish and are gone, and we don't have to worry about them. Anyhow, I like the taste of it. What do you want from me? I like paying you. Don't hock me. Don't start on me with the water.
Well, I don't like people who drink that stuff. I think...
It's the most incredible snobbery I've ever heard in my life.
Well, it's not... Listen, we all sit here and we talk about helping our country become better, and you write about this in many of your pieces, and you talk about it a great deal in your lectures.
How does Perrier
Every time you buy a bottle of that stuff, my friend, you're shipping our money over to France. I mean, they hawk us on wine, they hawk us on art, they hawk us on food.
He does, and Harlan keeps just gonna laugh about it.
I mean that.
I will not feel guilt about drinking Perrier. I'm sorry.
You should.
I wish I could, but unfortunately I cannot.
Nor should you.
I drink Canada Dry. It's nice too. But I'm not going to drink New York tap water. I'm sorry. I've seen what's swimming around in the East River. No, I'm sorry. They can't convince me that it's coming out of the tap clean.
Yeah, but it still lives in the East River.
One of
That's
your
what you got to remember. See, nothing dies, and the fish are still living out there. All those creatures.
Those are not fish. Have you seen what those things are?
Well, there are some things in there that have been thrown in there.
Not cute. I mean, people dump bodies in there all the time.
Yes, I know they do.
Nasty.
But they're well dressed. Beautiful cement life jackets. Fantastic.
Beautiful cement life jacket.
Well, not so much to Ronald Reagan. I want to get back to the thing that you talked about in talking about Reagan. Words, how words drive people crazy.
I never knew who Tom Snyder was until I started watching the Harlan Ellison interviews.
That became very noticeable when he used the word for bull excrement.
More like Perry Gay, am I right? You're right, Sean.
Few people know this. Broadcasting companies cannot censor in any way a paid political candidate. If he wants to come on and say anything he wants to say, four-letter words, you can't stop him from doing it. So Commoner says, be on the air, and everybody went crazy trying to shut him up. You see, so it's not just Ronald Reagan or the Board of Regents or conservatives who go crazy about words. Nearly everybody goes crazy about words.
I've run into that phrase
he's stuttering. He's stumbling
I've had
over
my
himself.
stories that were being taught in universities where the teacher who was teaching them has been fired from the job. Because they taught one of my stories and it had language in it. And
it was probably Democrats.
No, they never do that to me. Oh wait, yeah, they would, Harlan. They did it to most of
they're going to get you on language when they in fact put up with the real obscenities, which are business ethics, floating ethics. Let's do who we can as fast as we can. The censoring of other people. Let's keep everybody's opinions nice and leavened. Those are the true and genuine obscenities. Language is just language. I mean, words are my business. I mean, that's how I make, this is my 25th year writing.
We know, because you never shut up.
I've used a lot of different kinds of
language.
I
gotta waste all the oxygen possible.
Invariably,
so eventually I have no mouth and must become a reality.
The sign of the cross, like I'm the Omen or something if I say a terrible word.
The Omen, huh?
No, I
thought you hated horror films, Harlan.
That happened.
Damien.
No, let me tell you what happened. I always get it wrong. I always say it was Dayton, and it wasn't Dayton. It was Wittenberg, Ohio, and I was giving a lecture, and they got me on religion. I didn't ask them to. They did it. They got me on it, and I started
your dad again, Jenova?
And all of a sudden, up in the balcony, leaped up a young woman with big, fizzy natural, and she screamed, "You're the Antichrist. You're doing the devil's work," and she flicked her dick and set fire to her hair.
Wittenberg is, I believe it's more southern,
and all her friends are beating her head, and she ran out,
and
then chased her, and I said, wow, that was terrific. I mean, how do you follow that?
You don't, but do you ever wonder what goes through their minds when people do things like that? What are people afraid of? And you write about fear in the what do you call that? The preface or the author's notes, the introduction to your book. You write about the great fears that people have. We're afraid of nuclear war. We're afraid of cancer.
I'm afraid of Harlan Ellison coming back from the grave.
We're afraid of dying by mercury poisoning.
We're afraid of all the minorities that are going to come and hit us over the head and take our wallet.
Yeah, and to us,
technically
fear
that's
is
right,
something
Harlan.
that is always negative.
That's a
it is never
natural
used
fear.
in a positive way to continue our survival.
We're afraid of all the Italians who are going to fucking rough us up.
Because we're taught to be afraid very early on. And the things that we are taught to be afraid of, and when I say taught, I mean in a very inarticulate way.
He's going to do.
Mommy and
I think he
Daddy
does
make you afraid. The teachers make you afraid. The minister makes you afraid of all sorts of strange things. Not the least of which, and these are the real mortal dreads. Not looking good, of being rejected. I don't want to love anyone because if they die or then I'm going to be without again. Those are the real core fears that we suffer through, and they make us cowards. They make us put up with terrible things.
Harlan, should you really be talking about not cowardice when you are one?
This is really minuscule.
Can it wait for a couple minutes since it's so minute?
You're going to sell something.
No, I'm not, but they are.
They are.
We will be right back with Harlan Ellison after these announcements, so please stay with us.
They drink the fucking Perrier
Back
water.
with Harlan Ellison.
Good Lord.
You were landing at the airport.
It just always comes back to a cloud of
was coming
smoke.
off the little
carousel.
Yeah, it's a snake kind of thing going around. And there were 9,000 people. Everybody standing 6 deep. And the bags came out, they bump against each other, and somebody's bag would fall off into the middle where it lays there. Lies there? Lies there.
Rest.
And yes, it is.
You're an author.
There. And
Words, Harlan.
I couldn't get to it readily, but I watched because there were people that were very close, and they could have just reached over and grabbed it and stuff. Not one person would move a muscle. I got so annoyed. I got up and I jumped over both of the moving slidewalks, and everybody kind of watching if I'd fallen off the moon. And I stood it up, and I figured maybe if you set a good example, happened again, I got up and did it again. And I did that for about 25 minutes because my bags were sent out to New Brunswick, Canada. That's what happened to me, and and I thought to myself, these are exactly the kind of people who would stand there and turn their back while someone was being knifed. Absolutely.
Why? Because they wouldn't pick up your bag?
Pick up a bloody bag, which doesn't cost you anything. You know, what's it going to cost you to assert yourself and demonstrate a little physical courage in the face of maybe getting hurt?
You don't know what that means.
That's a kind of fear that I think is the most crippling for
Harlan, if you and I were walking across town tonight, and we saw somebody getting stabbed across the street on a very dark street, sans police officers or any kind of help, would we get involved? I don't know if I would. Would you?
Yeah, yeah.
No, you wouldn't.
I'm that kind of a nut.
It's easy to say exactly you would when the situation isn't happening.
Also, a lot of my life...
Have you ever?
Yeah, many times. A lot of my life has been violent. I tell you...
many times.
You don't believe it? Well, ladies, I don't believe it. Well, come over here, sucker, and I'll show you. No.
You don't want.
I'll tell you my most recent one, and I'm not proud of this.
Some guy in the audience is like,
no, you to me in the face of violence, because I had a lot of that when I was a kid, and my response is instant and immediate. I was in L.A., and I was driving down Doheny to go to a screening, and behind me was a Jeep, very expensive Jeep with a roll bar. A couple of really good-looking California blonde guys and a very pretty young woman.
I love this story. I'm so glad I got this one.
I happened to look in the rearview mirror, and the young woman flipped the cigarette onto the trunk of my car. Mm-hmm. Now, I drive a '67 Camaro. I mean, it hasn't been washed since 1970, you know. But even so, it seemed I didn't like that.
No, it's your car.
Squeezing all he can out of that money.
You don't have that bumper sticker on the back that says, "You touch my car, I smash your face." You don't have that. Yeah.
No, I am not into that kind of thing at all. I'm a passive sort until riled, like a rattlesnake. And I got out, and their car was about that far from behind me, and I held up the cigarette for a moment, and I dropped it, and I said, "You didn't mean to do that, did you?" And it was open top. And the guys looked at me, and they gave me a Barbarino. What? And I said, "You
making fun of my
people to do that." And I put two nice depressions in the hood of the Jeep. And so now these guys start to come out of the Jeep. And so I calmly walk to my car, get in, leave them sitting at the light, and go on through. Now, they go through the red light, right? I have offended their machismo.
You're afraid of confrontation,
aren't you? You've also dented their hoodismo, huh? Yeah.
Absolutely fair. I believe in revenge. They come after me. As we approach Wilshire Boulevard, they try to cross me on the left in the opposite lanes, so one lane on either side, and try to run me off the road. I just sail gently to the left because I got an old car. What do I care, right?
Exactly.
I run them off the road and up into a gas station. They go off the other side and come across Wilshire, across 4 lanes of traffic, and they come after me all the way down.
That would be manslaughter if they died.
So by this time, I'm thinking, we got a good thing going here.
You'd be in jail, Harlan.
So I go past the Writers Guild Theater, which is where I was going to the screening.
Of course.
And they come up on the right-hand side, and the first thing the guy yells, which is the first thing that his little pea-sized brain could contain, was, "Hey, faggot, come on out here, faggot, faggot." And I said, "Don't hit me. Don't hit me." So now he reaches into my window. He reaches into my window, which is open on the right side. It was a nice, pleasant day. He reaches in, and I go through the light, and he comes after me again. Now, when we get to the next light, I know it's going to happen again, and this time I am ready for him. When he reaches in to grab me, I grab his hand, and I roll up the window, and I deck it and go right through the light, dragging him out of the Jeep.
Okay,
and I pull him
this
about
is
a half
before automatic windows, so he would actually have to roll it up.
Yeah,
He
bullshit.
would actually have to roll it up himself.
Bullshit, Harlan.
Bullshit. This whole story is bullshit.
Yeah. You're not fooling anybody, Harlan.
Nope.
Jesus.
I guess that's all. I wouldn't have heard it. And
just enough to kind of rough him up a little bit. Yeah.
Just to get his attention. Yeah. You've got to get his attention. And then I unrolled the window and dropped him, and I went. You know, and that was that.
No.
Now, my feeling about this kind of thing is.
And then they got your license plate and called the police.
It's an improvement. It's an improvement. Years ago, I'd have got out and duked it out in the street.
No, you wouldn't have.
I was sensitive, and I was mature about it.
Over dropping a cigarette on the back of your 1967 Chevy, which hasn't been washed since 1970.
That's right.
You did this to this poor man.
No, I think it's the implication of what Scott Fitzgerald called the careless people.
Oh,
those who walk through.
I mean, if the guy would have said, "Hey, excuse me,
absolutely.
I did," okay.
Absolutely,
right.
absolutely.
Big brain
you know, they said, "Oh, gee, I didn't mean to." I mean, like when I make a wrong turn in the car, I'm so chagrined and I'm so embarrassed, I pull over and say, "I'm sorry."
Or if you're turning left and there are people waiting behind you to turn, and I feel, oh, I wish I wouldn't make these people wait, but I got to turn left here.
It's a matter of trying to live in the world with other people and being a little careful. I mean, I won't drop a paper bag on the street. Today in New York, I had a paper bag, and I had to walk, all over looking for a place to put it, and there was a guy with a cigarette hot dog stand, and I said, can I drop it in your bag? And he looked at me like I was weird, that I wanted to drop it in the garbage
Gee, Harlan,
can.
I wonder why anyone would ever look at you like you're weird.
No, if there had been any kind of amelioration, but immediately they come on with you. They start getting, nasty. So... Anyhow, how's you doing? How's your life?
My life is just
How are
fine.
you?
People can drop cigarettes on my hood anytime they
You
want
never
to.
go out, man. You never go out.
No, I don't. I rarely go out. I don't like going out. I like staying
I'll
at
run
home.
into you, Harlan. That's my biggest fear.
Well?
No, because I have to do this now.
Grace says, and then years
Do I have
later,
to do it right this
Caitlyn
second?
Jenner ran a stop sign and killed
If you go
someone,
out,
but nothing
and,
happened.
You and I are recognizable, and then people want an autograph, and 3 people start to run at you. I get very nervous when 3 people are running at me, because you think they want an autograph, but sometimes they might want to take something else with them.
Well, people who don't get that think, well, if you didn't want that, you wouldn't be famous. Well, who knew? Who knew? All my life I said, gee, it would be terrific to be famous, golly, that would be nifty. Then I got a little, money. I mean, I'm not, your face is known everywhere. I'm a writer, they don't know me that well, but occasionally I'm on here and someone will come over. But when it happens, it's very disturbing.
I would just like to say this, Chad. Even if Harlan looks slightly like me, I would never act
and
like
you're sitting in a restaurant and some zlobo comes up to you and says, hey, who are you? Yeah, and here, sign this. I never read your stuff, but my kid is weird and she reads your stuff, and,
Today I was coming back from lunch with a friend of mine who works in the press department here, and there was a nice young woman on the corner, and she had a camera. She said, could I take your picture for my girlfriend? I said, certainly. So she got out the, Instamatic and got it all wound up, and she said to my friend, she said, could you take the picture so I could do the picture? I said, I thought this was your friend. She said, well, it is, like that. I kind of like that, but when you see 3 people run at you who are large with neck sizes like that,
Gene is secretly taking notes
we'll
on
be
how
right
to
back
behave.
after these announcements with more of Harlan Ellison. Back with Harlan Ellison in just a second, but may I remind you that tomorrow night here we have singer and songwriter John Denver, who will discuss the ups and downs that he's been experiencing. I'll tell you, for John Denver, it's been rough.
Well, guess what, Tom? It's about to get a lot worse.
Yes, it is.
Must be almost broke for it.
One could say he's about to crash and burn.
We were talking about Ronald Reagan, and you were talking about how he
should not have been on that experimental plane. I don't know what.
But then you went on to say, on the other hand, and I interrupted you. I want to now go back to the other hand.
I have these very...
I'm starting to tidy it up now because we're heading
I'm interrupting you again.
And, just in case we crash, I want everything compartmentalized nicely.
Well, it is historically...
Okay,
so that we go to war under democratic
pause real quick. Can we talk about the fact he said we're gonna crash when then putting after like John Denver? Can we talk about how creepy that is?
I told you, dude, it's great. These little time capsules. It's like the same thing with Mondo Hollywood, where they have Jay Sebring and Bobby Babalesilo, whatever his fucking name is, guy murdered by the Manson family, and then a guy from the Manson family serving life in prison, and they're not even near each other. It's these weird fucking little coincidences that are just there, and they're scary.
Yeah, that one was really scary. Him literally say, if we crash, let's compartmentalize everything. After talking about John Denver, a guy who died in a crash. Okay, all right.
And we have periods of, high finance and good economics during Republican presidents. So,
well, at least you can admit that.
I voted for Carter, and I was as disappointed in him as everybody else was. So to clean up after Carter, Reagan will clean it up. We will. Everybody's going. You're all going to get
at least you can admit that. He's done 3 things in a row now.
A lot of that is not going to filter down to the people who are hurting worse.
Oh, of course.
And
it's not going to filter down if you're lazy.
And I voted for the Liberals for 20 years. I voted for Ronald Reagan this time out.
Did you?
Yes, I did. I voted for John.
Don't touch me.
Don't touch me. Oh, come on, it doesn't hurt. I voted for Kennedy and for Johnson and for Humphrey, and I was one of those who voted for McGovern, and I voted for Carter. And I asked myself, all the causes in which I believe deeply and have over the years, in which we talk about things filtering down to those who really need it, it hasn't filtered down in the past 20 years.
Never will. Never has, never will. The people on the bottom know that. Why do you think they're out cautioning you in the head in the street? They know the truth.
You mean the welfare people?
They're just not going to get down there.
They don't want to work.
And that's the flat of it. And
then
I
use
don't
their
make any brief
welfare
for that
checks
one
to
way or
buy
the other.
beer.
It's just that
TVs.
I personally know Mr. Reagan from what went down with me. I mean, I was on his subversive list for at least 4 years because I was writing for the LA Free Press, and everybody was who was on the Free Press.
Subversive list. I wonder what that's.
You know, every time I say the things,
Ronald Reagan's like, we gotta get this. We gotta get this to Nancy.
I caught him doing it, which is really two of the most inept wiretappers I've ever seen.
You know something? Yeah, they aren't very good at that.
Oh, they were terrible. They were buzzing
trying to make
line.
themselves sound important.
Yeah. But if they were
still
out
drinking
to
that fucking
silence
Perry water the
would have
entire
been
time
silenced a long time ago.
Absolutely.
You know, what you're saying tonight is not staying here in the building. It's going out to hundreds, nay, thousands of
I just
homes
want
tonight.
Mr. Reagan to know.
See, Tom makes a good point. If they were really trying to take you out, they would have.
I'm watching you,
and
Ron.
so
I'm
are the rest of us. Yeah. And you got 4 years. And if you muck it up, pal, you're going the way of Carter. No more do you get in for 8 years just because you were
and what did he do, Gene?
He
got in for 8 years.
That's a good thing to say.
I guess he didn't muck it up after all.
Send a card to Ronald Reagan. I'm watching.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. Remember what you said.
It was Bush that mucked it up after.
Well, yeah,
I was thinking today coming across town about
he
the
did lead
earthquake
us
in
to
Italy,
that
which was a terrible
7-day war.
And how now here in New York, for example, the outpouring
we
from the
crushed
Italian
Iraq
community
in
here in
7
New York
days.
and from all areas of our city to send food, to send blankets, to send money, to send help to those people who were really hurt in that earthquake. Then I thought about the people in San Bernardino who were burned out last week. What are they getting? What are we sending to our own? Why are we always so quick to help the needy overseas, which is very proper and wonderful, and which I don't decry for a second.
Yeah, that is a good point.
But we never really think about helping our own.
I said that one time to somebody. I said,
it's not dramatic enough.
They were like, well, we're sending stuff overseas.
It's an
what about our own
movie
people?
in Italy.
And they laughed at me.
And we can see all those, those poor, pathetic
And I was like, are you kidding me? Help your own.
And they're suffering, and everybody buried, and it gets really good media hype. San Bernardino is a lot of people who are upper middle class, and they don't look pathetic. They're wandering around in their Adidas sweatshirts, you know,
not anymore.
Cleaning out the pool and all. You can, I can't get really upset
people
about
left
that.
a long time ago because of people like you, Harlan, who put people like John Carter in power.
I believe San Bernardino. Remember those terrorists? That terrorist guy that like got mad at an office party?
Oh yeah.
It was like running around and shit, killing people. That was in San Bernardino, I believe.
Yeah, it was. I think I had a pretty good pause game here. You can
look at that. I was just about to say, look at the look on his face. He looks so defeated.
He does. He's like, oh, my Tom voted for Ronald Reagan. I guess we can't be friends anymore.
John says there's something to be said of presiding over the executive branch while the USSR is imploding almost under its own weight. And what would you know? He did let people talk about it.
Yep.
It's very true. Bush 43, no new taxes, and wouldn't greenlight the final assault on Baghdad. Thanks, George H.W. That's right, Greg.
Yep.
And that's why he lost, because of the taxes.
That is correct.
Former CIA director.
We do, but should we is the question.
But that's the human animal. It's the human animal. There's no way to get away from that. We are a very strange species. I was at the Jet Propulsion Lab in Pasadena watching the Saturn flyby. It was one of the most astonishing things I've ever been.
What?
I really felt awestruck staggering around there in the company of, you know, Clyde Tombaugh, the discoverer of Pluto, for God's sakes. And I got out and listening to the. Why did you break your cigarette?
I just, it's my new habit. When I don't want to smoke, I break them in half. I waste.
Oh, you know what I do when I don't want to smoke?
I'm getting.
You really are.
Put it out.
And I went out to go home that night. I mean, after they've discovered things that defy
Jenova, you just did something on the card. Jenova's lights
things
spark.
that cannot possibly be. They just can't. But there they are. And the news.
Oh, the rings where they said
the rings are braided.
Possibly
be. It can't be.
My lighter's
they
sparking.
It's got everybody stymied. In fact, at NASA, usually if they take an hour or two or a day at most, they can figure out a logical explanation. But the braiding, they don't know where to even start. And the spokes that radiate out.
So now tell the braiding. That's where the rings are all different kinds of.
I think it's the F ring.
The F ring?
Right, folks, you see out there's a big thing called Saturn. And it's anyhow, it's got these rings going around it, and the rings are kept.
You don't have
to talk down to
I don't know how to explain. I mean, I can't even explain it.
You're a writer. You can't explain it.
There's an involved gravitic celestial mechanics that keeps those rings going around, okay? And they should, by all rights, be separated and keep going around or fly apart. We're not quite sure how they
Jenova lights up
but
two
they not
more,
only
says
go around.
John.
Yeah,
that's very true.
Three rings in the large F ring that braid
Grace's neocons were
each
problematic and hopefully
which
relegated
is physically impossible.
Very
it
true,
cannot
Gray.
be.
Fuck
It's as if I would have
neocons still exist too. They are subversive in the Republican Party.
And that's what's got them
as are
started. And I come out of JPL and I'm driving back to LA.
They are.
For the night.
By heart and soul, they are. And that's why you ever wonder why they cook so much? That's why.
Yeah. And I thought to myself, this is insanity. that we live in a time of such staged crises.
Alan King
said it here.
That's what
the
I'll
whole
say.
country worried about who shot J.R. Who gives a damn about who shot Vernon Jordan?
Yeah.
Huh? You know what? This is from Alan King. Not from me, from Alan King. Now, you know how those rings, they put Perrier water on those and it does a magic. I know, commercial. We'll be right back after these announcements.
You've always been a child.
The commercial break, one of our friends here said, how old are you?
Vernon Jordan, yeah.
And I said 46.
Black man.
Do you feel old at
who's
46?
still alive?
No.
Okay.
Remember when you were 25 and
Leading
thought about
figure
46?
in the civil rights
oh my
movement.
God,
He was
that's
chosen by
ancient.
President
I
Bill
never thought I'd
Clinton as
live
a
past
close
14.
advisor.
Like I said, violent. I had a not terrific childhood, and ran off when I was 13. And I figured,
put it in slow motion,
if I make it to
repeat
14,
it,
I'm gonna be
and call
lucky.
him a reptile.
And every day that I get, that I keep, that I'm able to get up,
I get a lot of views if I do
is golden time. So I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to. I live with a beautiful lady who is younger than I, and it disturbs me. Jane is a wonderful, wonderful woman, but I have sports jackets older than she is.
Hopefully after 2020 they won't exist.
And she thought I was kidding, so I showed her one that I had, and she said, "My God, it is."
But the only problem with it most of the time is that a lot of them were under McCain, too.
No.
Does she think you're weird?
He's talking about his wife,
I don't know what Jane thinks about that. Jane likes living with me. I'm not sure her parents are terribly happy about it.
Her parents are terrible. It is J.F. Ellison.
She used to like it in California. She likes it in my house. My house is a lot of fun. There's a lot of people in and out, and there's 37,000 books in the house, and a lot of good music, and a lot of art, and it's a terrific place to be.
Probably come by a couple of Perriers, read a few books, and.
She likes Perrier. She won't drink anything else.
Really?
Yeah.
Poor thing.
Wow. She's a nice American lady.
All right. Somebody
Drinking
else here
French
in
water.
our house tonight. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, it's me.
Hi. Yes, it is.
Hi, it's me.
I'd like a confirmation from you to
Wait, that's
the
his
fact
wife.
that I believe that the college education in California
That's
has
just some
been
lady in the
running
audience.
not only very well, but to the extent that the average
It looks
American
kind of close to
family
his
can
wife.
send your child to a good school, and I believe that like UCLA costs $1,200 per year as a resident of California.
him.
You can send your child to
Look at this
college
shot. It's a side shot. You
for
can see
about
how big his
$1,200,
nose
and I
is.
think that says a lot for Reagan.
It says that when Reagan came in, there was no tuition being charged residents.
That's not true.
And it's now $1,200. That can be said. What also can be said is that the stat reading scores in the state of California are among the lowest in the nation now. We have a state filled with
That's
illiterates.
because of your teachers,
Yeah, but
your
do you blame that on
education.
Ronald Reagan, or do you blame it on the kinds of people who can't just buy an ordinary Jeep but have to have...
Look at him. Tom's just going in. It's so great. I just had to pause it.
Yep.
Fuck you,
Look at
Harlan.
that face. Pause game on point, Gene.
Thank you.
Look at that face.
Like, he's like, Harlan, I'm going to question you on that. Harlan looks like he's going to piss himself.
Mm-hmm. He does not like to be
old
challenged.
bars and,
He just wants to
throw
run his
seats in
mouth
it
and have
go
nobody
around
challenge
throwing
him.
cigarette butts on people's hoods.
I don't know who to blame it on. I mean, I'm sure it's not. I mean, Ronald Reagan didn't single-handedly step out there and...
Harlan, let's face it, growing up in California is not the most ideal thing for most young people, especially in the Los Angeles area where there's a lot of opulence and a lot of luxury and a lot of loose money running
Not
around.
everybody lives in Beverly Hills.
No, not
everybody lives in Park Avenue in New York. There's an awful lot of people who live in the Bronx, you know. And,
I feel like
and that's
Tom
the same,
just
and that's the
enjoys
same
setting him
for
off.
Los
I think so
Angeles.
too,
There are an awful
John.
lot of people who live in bedroom communities out in the valley, who live in small towns throughout the state.
Hey, Harlan,
and,
here's a
and
good
in
thing.
Los Angeles,
You
we
didn't
have
grow
our
up in
versions of the
fucking
ghetto,
California,
too. They
did
happen
you?
to be
You grew
better,
up in
better laundered. They happen to be
Ohio.
better
You grew up in
tailored.
Cleveland.
You don't
Painesville.
see. You don't see burned out,
sucks.
gutted buildings as much, but it's the same.
I mean, he was there until
the same
he was
wash,
college
right
age.
across the
So,
plain. What I'm saying to you
most
is
certainly
that
did
the
not grow up
education
in California.
in California is not what it was before.
How do you
and
know
it
that?
began, as far as
It's
I
shit.
can tell, because I went there 17,
And it's
18
not
years
Ronald
ago,
Reagan's
and
fault.
that was one of the things that I took greatest pride in that state, that we had an educational system that was second to none. We were number one in the nation. And it
because
isn't
of
now.
conservatives,
And it began with
and then
Ronald
communists
Reagan's
That's
came
funny
into
because
the
I moved there
educational
16
system.
years ago,
Yep.
or 17 years ago,
Like they said they
1963 for the
would.
first time.
Yep.
I remember a woman telling me, I'd moved there from Georgia in the 60s, and in Georgia in the 60s there was a lot of racial tension back and forth between blacks and whites.
I think you could say that, yeah.
And I moved to California
I think you could say
expecting
that. Thanks,
a
Harlan.
land of peace. And I went to rent an apartment, and a lady said to me, she said, you know, you better live north of Sunset and west of La Brea Otherwise, you're going to have to
coming
live
off
with
of
the
Harlan.
niggers.
He must be
I think
gay.
in California, it blew my mind. I said, good heavens, I just moved here from Georgia to get away from that kind
Why
of
should it
thing.
blow your mind?
Well, because I've been led to believe that California was so progressive, so wonderful, so liberal.
And guess
you
who,
aren't kidding.
in
and then she says to me, and by the way, do you have children? I said, no, I don't. She said, well, that's good because the educational system out here stinks. Now, this was in 1963. This is what I heard.
Yep.
Yeah.
We all hear different things.
You know, people are exactly the same. They had school riots in Boston. And in California,
let me mitigate California's problems
and saying how terrible things were in Alabama and Georgia and the Carolinas. It was terrible, terrible, terrible. Now they're busting kids to get racial, balance. Boy, we had an item on the news. It was wonderful. They had a school
Democrats.
where they had all the kids' names in a basket,
yep, busing them.
and they had to pick some to go and some to stay. And all the parents came in, and one guy got up. Typical, your daddy of the year, straight out of a Norman Rockwell painting. And he got up, and his language, what makes mine look like olive oil, man. And he got up, and he took the basket and threw it across the room, and everybody cheered him.
Don't talk
and
about
I said
the
to
drink
myself,
of my people.
There they are. There they are. The Visigoths are still with us.
Okay,
People
pause.
are all the same.
The Visigoths.
Here
we go. Visigoths were the poor class.
Yes, they were.
Rome, the Visigoths sacked Rome. They were the poor class. It's not the Visigoths. You're saying that these people are like the upper class and they're trying to keep the middle class down, and you're saying that the upper class are Visigoths. That's wrong.
Yeah.
You're wrong, Harlan. Visigoths took from Rome because Rome treated them like shit. I mean, Rome had a reason to.
They were,
and the thing was, the gates
vandals.
of Rome, right? And the gates of Rome were opened by an immigrant from the Visigoths.
Yep.
Who was living in Rome at the time.
Yep.
So you're wrong, Harlan. It's a terrible comparison.
It's Harlan Ellison. Do you expect a good comparison?
No, I don't. You can keep rolling. I just wanted to.
I know.
I wanted to mention it.
I know. It's good to always take a peg down from Harlan Ellison, especially because he just runs his fucking mouth.
He just talks and talks and talks, and he's hoping nobody is listening to what he's actually saying.
Yeah.
You know?
They don't. Tom is, though. Tom's paying a lot of attention.
Oh, Tom pays a lot. Yes.
And
I recommend watching all the interviews because they're fucking great.
My pause game. Harlan looks like he's still struggling for an answer.
Yeah, he doesn't know. He's stuck. Whenever Tom challenges him, he starts to stutter over himself.
Yep. Oh yeah, Mr. Writer. I guess.
We live, guys?
Reconnection successful. Oh, now we're live. Okay, it disconnected. That was weird. So I guess my internet shit out for a minute too. That's weird.
Your internet shit out. Yeah. Okay. F5. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, F5. Yeah, you're fine. You're fine.
Oh, there we go. We're back. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I got to get to it again. All right, and play.
We're all in the same skin.
Sorry about that, chat.
It means that.
He sighed. Did you hear that sigh?
Whatever you feel, whatever you're afraid of somebody finding out about, what you would not want the cops to come into your house and go into the bottom of your bedroom drawer and pull out that you got under the socks there, whatever it is, we all got it. We all have that same thing. Can I give you this is a beaut. The title story of the book, Shatterday, I wrote in a hotel here in
Just a second now. Now, before this, Jimmy, do we have to do this? Okay. I see you looking over there. They do this with commercial. You don't see it.
I'll leave the thumb right there.
No, that's it. Tell me. All right, go ahead. Excuse me.
Okay, I wrote it.
We fly by wire here. I don't know. They're going crazy with people waiting back there, and
those are very nice people in there.
I know they are, and I refuse to let you go just yet.
All right, as long as Steve Shagan knows I didn't do it.
Hey, Steve Shagan knows that.
Okay.
So what did Harlan have under his socks? That's great. Who knows?
Moving right along as fast as possible.
Keep talking, Harlan. You're good at it.
I was sitting writing the story.
So I know what waiting around is.
Tom keeps fucking interrupting.
Forgive me, Steve. I'm just kidding. Yes, Harlan.
I forgot what I was going to say.
Shatterday.
Oh, yes.
A beaut.
I was sitting in a hotel room writing it because I had to give a reading uptown, and I was writing it very, very fast. So I wasn't reading what I was writing, which happens sometimes. I just
what
kind
of,
as you say, fly on the wire. I went. When I went uptown to read the story, I read it, and there was a section in it where the guy is talking about his mother. And in it, he says, I wish she would finally die. The woman has been sick. And I realized I was talking about my own mother. My mother had been ill, and she never really cared much about living after my father died, and she spent 25 years just a shadow walking around and being Doc Ellison's widow. That was her role in life. And when I read that, I felt the most
Sounds like
unbelievable horror at myself for having even thought it and admitting it.
I wanted my mom to die.
Last year, I was doing some work for the ERA in the best place of all, Salt Lake City, right? And I'm on the radio, and I was, talk about people we're not allowed to talk about because they want equal time. Anyhow, and I said this to the interviewer. I was talking about this story, and I said this. I said I wanted my mother to go, finally. I mean, it was partly selfish that I couldn't. We had reversed roles. I'd become the parent and she the child, which happens to a lot of people. And it was always in the back of it. She was a nice woman, a good woman. I had nothing, there was no meanness in me. I just wanted to be free of that. And when I said that...
And you wanted her to be free of shuffling around.
Yeah, but mostly me. I mean, I can't cop to it. I know
I wanted my mom to be free of me.
I wanted to be loose of it, man. That was the truth. And that was, I copped to that. And I said it over the radio. And the guy who was interviewing me looked at me the way you would look at a leper. I mean, he was really horrified. And then the phone calls started coming in, and a woman got on the line, and she started to cry. And she said, thank you for saying that. She said, because I have felt that for years. And she said, I felt like a monster. And I said, you are not alone. We all share it. And everybody's afraid to say these things. I mean, it may not be the nicest thing in the world to say, but we are all in the same skin. We all suffer those mortal dreads. And
because she was so old.
In the stories, that's... as you were saying when you said about Jeffy,
I wanted her
we
to
are all those
fucking
people.
die.
And that's
Harlan
what I write about,
Ellison.
is the stuff we won't cop to, the stuff we won't admit. Hello?
Now I'd like to go into Jeffy, but I can't do that because I don't want to keep those people waiting.
Yeah, they should come
back. But you got to come back sometime, and we'll talk about Jeffy because in spite of your story, he lives.
I hope so.
He does. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Tom.
All right. Don't stay away too long.
They challenge each other. Harlan's not always right. Tom puts him in his place. And like they're still friends.
I like the fact that Harlan sounded like he was really defeated at the end too. He's like, okay, no problem, my friend.
Yeah, he knew. And if you watch some other interviews, they're definitely like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we should land the plane.
I think so too. Yeah.
It's been a great show.
Yes, it's been very fun.
You want to do some shilling?
Yeah, I don't know actually if we do or not. If we don't, I'll come up with something else. If we do, I have no idea what the topic is. It will be 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time if it's Bannerants. It will be 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time if it's me. I have not heard back from Esau yet. Hopefully he made it back from Dragon Con all right.
He's probably taken a couple furry hostages.
Probably.
Some furry sex slaves.
He's trying to raise Harlan Ellison from the dead because he's the ideal Jew lord for him.
I bet he would love fucking Harlan.
He would.
But we're glad you guys came out tonight. We always appreciate everybody coming out.
Yep.
Like we said, we don't always get a chance to actually have a visual element for the show, but we felt that it was necessary for Harlan. And we could get away with it because of the interviews.
I haven't heard from Esau yet. Gene Skinner 3 times a week. Yeah, that's accurate.
But we hope you guys got a feel for Harlan and how obnoxious he is and how mealy-mouthed he is.
I just keep reading more stuff in chat. Esau wants Papa Harlan back. His training isn't yet complete. Oh, good.
There are a few redeeming qualities of Harlan Ellison.
Yeah, we've covered. I think we've done a fair job on Harlan. We've shown him what he is and what he's like, and
yes, and this stream was a little different from what we usually do, not necessarily because of the visual element, but because a lot of times we focus on the work of the creator, whoever we're spotlighting.
Yeah.
But in here, we wanted to focus on Harlan's personality
and himself.
He's a big personality, and it's just, he's blacker than OJ.
Blacker than OJ. I'm drinking Perry water, $2.75, and I'm gonna tell how everyone else in the poor should be eliminated.
He's like a great Jew character from GTA, says Greg. I like the visual elements, says Jenny. Yeah, we try to do them. We can't always do them, Jenny, because
it's a show about movies.
It's movies, and we can't really show clips because we don't know what's going to get us busted and what's not.
Yep.
And we just got this channel back. This is our original channel. Make sure you guys are subscribed if you haven't subscribed, just because, like, if you're subscribed over on Heretic Network, you might not be subscribed here, which is Heretic Channel.
Yes.
So And we appreciate everybody coming out as always. We loved sharing this with you guys. Me and Gene. Gene, I laughed so loud the first time we talked about Harlan Ellison.
You did.
We were just reading his Wikipedia. I was laughing so loud that my neighbors
came over to make sure it was okay.
Came over to tell me to shut the fuck up.
Yep.
Because I was laughing so loud. But yes, thank you guys for coming out. We will be back Wednesday
with post-apocalyptic horror films.
Yes, we'll be talking about some post-apocalyptic horror films. A couple different movies here or there. Gene's gonna watch some. I'm gonna watch some, and we're gonna discuss the apocalypse and Friday.
What makes the post-apocalypse as well?
Yes, and Friday we will be
watching technically 2 post-apocalyptic movies.
Yes, what are we watching? A Boy and His
Dog and Six String Samurai.
Six String Samurai, both fantastic films. Yes. Gene, you showed me Six String Samurai.
Yes, back in Stream E's days where I could actually show it.
Back in the Stream E days, and man, that movie's fantastic. I love it.
I love it too.
So, and thanks everybody for coming out, and we will see you guys next time.
Yep. Take care, chat. Have a good one.
Get the hell out of here, Gene.
Yep. Let's pull the plug. Peace.